The internet has changed the world in so many incredible ways, and as we continue to be more connected than ever, in some ways we've never been lonelier. In a time when our friendships, relationships, and in many ways whole lives move to be more and more online, it can be hard to keep track of shifting paradigms. Join us for real conversations exploring success, pitfalls, and the myriad journeys of gamers growing up. The show where we hang out with our guests in their favorite video game and focus in on what steps they're taking to tackle the main quests of life. Finding purpose, building success, and spreading love.
Life is a journey, yours starts here. If you're feeling lost, then have no fear. There's always a seat at the tavern, as the legend goes, where the fire's warm and the ale flows cold. You can share your story, whether you're young or old. Tell tales of your glories or sorrows. Things are going great, or you're down on your luck, spent too much of the same and you're feeling stuck. Share what you know on Gamers Growing Up. GGUP. GGUP. GGUP.
This week, we're joined by my good friend, Michael.
Hey, happy to be here.
Hey, Michael, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is the inaugural episode of Gamers Growing Up, GG I'm your host, Nick, and today Michael has agreed to join me to do a little bit different of an episode than what will be standard going forward. I'm going to talk about myself as well as interview him. Same questions that will be going into further conversations. But I thought it'd be nice for everyone to get to know me and get to know Michael, who's a friend of the show and will be a recurring guest throughout the series. So, Michael, you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners?
Sure, yeah. My name's Michael. I am 25. I'm about to be 26, which is crazy to me. But no, Nick and I have been friends for many years now, many, many years, actually probably going on a little over a decade, which is
We go way back.
yeah, also really crazy to think about. But I'm currently a law student in Chicago, and that's the short of it.
As for me, we're about the same age. I'm also about to be 26. I've worked in an architecture firm, and I'm currently in a transitory phase of life, trying to figure out where things go from here. And that's kind of the point of the show, is to talk about people's lives, their journeys in their career, their personal life, figure out how that's interacting and start to build a repository of like a real resource for people who are going through similar things, trying to figure out their path so that you can log on and hopefully whatever path you're thinking of following one day, there will be interviews with people who've walked that journey. I'm trying to find people who are really happy with how things have turned out, as well as people who not so much, so that we can learn from them, learn where things went wrong, where things went right, and really help you get a picture of what the major things that are going to impact your life are. Because I think that these days it's becoming less and less clear. Our lives are moving a lot more online, and that's really changing things. I don't think people are talking about it enough. So that's what's driving me to get this show going, is to begin that conversation, start building a community around it to support each other. Because I feel like we really need a place to be like, hey, going to college might not be the right choice, or maybe it is. I want to do this with my life, I think. I have these skills and these interests. I think that it's so easy to feel lost for young people these days. And that's really the whole point, is to try and build a resource and a community to help people feel supported and navigate this challenging part of life. I mean, it's one of the best parts of life, but damn if you don't feel alone sometimes. You ever feel that, Michael?
I mean, absolutely, dude. And even as you're talking, it's one of those things where I've been in both buckets. I've been very happy with where I'm at. I've been very happy with everything that I'm doing, and I've also been, let's say, not as happy, with everything that's
Yeah,
been going on.
I
And
feel that.
absolutely, and that's the thing, is that it's such a common feeling, even though it's so isolating. And so I think that it's super cool, and that's why I'm super excited to be here today. Is because I think that it's something that definitely I could have used, when I was younger, and I think that if even a single person is like, damn, maybe shit works out. Like,
Right?
then I'm happy. So
Same here. So, to get started, let's talk a little bit about the concept of the show. We're going to be hanging out with people in their favorite video games. And you and I picked an interesting one because we went back to a game that means a lot to both of us.
yeah, got in
We're
our
currently
bag.
in Star Wars: The Old Republic. You can see our characters vibing out in the cantina in Nar Shaddaa.
Dude, I love this game. I have to say, I played so much of it growing up. It was one of those things where I didn't know. I don't know if you had this experience, but when I was younger, I feel like I just kind of like played games, but I didn't like realize how much time commitment or like different genres. I would just get in shit. And
Yeah, let's start
so
a new MMO every week, man.
yeah, exactly. But this is one of the ones that stuck with me, and I played it all through like middle school. I came back to it a couple of times in like high school, you on break or something. Um, and so, when we were discussing like a game that meant something and that we felt like would be a cool place to hang out, I mean, this seemed to be the best choice for both of us because you had similar experiences with this game, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I grew up playing MMOs. I think like one of my favorite games of all time is World of Warcraft. It's one of the first games I really locked in on. And this game was kind of my breakout on gaming by myself. I grew up gaming with my dad, and we played this game together a lot for a long time. Probably, at least 6, 7 years. We were playing pretty actively while
Sheesh.
playing other things. Yeah, I loved the stories. I think I've played through the storylines in every character you possibly could. It's some of the best Star Wars content out there, I think.
Hmm. I agree.
Um, yeah, it's just really nostalgic. It feels comfortable. I think it's awesome that we both have had so many wonderful experiences in here, and it's fun to be able to just vibe out somewhere familiar and get to talk about some deep stuff.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, I know that I don't want to timestamp us too much either, but the time of day that we're recording this is also very conducive to that sort of conversation, I'm happy with the way that things have shaken out and the sort of mix of environment in both virtually and in real life that we've been able to sort of get going here.
There's no better place late at night than the cantina.
Absolutely.
I do want to ask though, so what's your favorite game of all time?
Oh,
And
favorite
we'll be
game of
talking
all
about it.
time?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I mean, I grew up playing game. You know this. I grew up playing games. I've played probably more games than I should admit that I've played. Probably spent more hours. If you could pick any single activity, when you
Yeah.
classify stuff like reading, playing games, watching TV, I definitely gaming is probably not even in competition with anything else for first place.
We're progging the gaming skill, that's for sure.
For sure. But favorite game, that's a tough one. I think, and going back to how important I think this game, Star Wars: The Old Republic, was to me, like formatively, like a lot of my favorite series are like BioWare. I love the Mass Effect
Oh,
series.
love Mass Effect.
I
Yeah.
love, I really like Dragon Age. Um, I actually recently, in some of my time, was able to play through um, Veilguard, which is the newest one, and it wasn't as everyone was making a big hoopla about it being terrible. It was fine. It was very different, but I don't think it was a bad game by any means. Anyway,
Okay,
I
that's good.
digress. Favorite game of all time? I mean, Persona 5 is definitely
Woo!
definitely up there, or
What a
Persona
game.
3. Yeah, fantastic, dude. And I don't mean to geek out, but I'm pretty sure there's a Persona announcement coming tomorrow. But we'll see, or any day now. But yeah, definitely Persona 5 or Mass Effect 3 is what I'd probably have to go with.
Both gems of games.
Absolutely. I actually don't think we've ever talked about like I know your favorite MMO is like WoW. I know you said that
Huh?
recently. What's your like actual like favorite game just across genres?
Gosh. I might have to break up the genres because I play a lot of different genres. It's hard to pit them against each other. I'll give
Sure.
you um my top three, I think, of all time, because I don't know how I could order them. And I'm lucky enough that I'm playing two of them right now. It's a beautiful time to be a gamer in 2025. I have to say, the game's just, we went through a drought for a while there where I was like, man, they're
Yeah.
just really not putting out fucking anything of
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah. I thought it was me. I thought I was aging out of it, but no, it was
No,
not.
yeah, they came back with some heat the past couple years.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
growing up, I played so much Command and Conquer Tiberium Wars,
Mm-hmm.
a good real time strategy game. Like was into StarCraft, Battle for Middle Earth. Those are great, but I think there's something really special about Command and Conquer for me. There's something too crazy of the power trip, just taking one unit, running into an enemy base, and if you know what you're doing, you win the game. It's a little wild. I'd say right now I've been playing so much V Rising
Hmm.
and Enshrouded. They're both building games,
Yeah.
survival games. I'm building vampire castles in one and leveled out a mountain and I'm building a castle on top of it in the other. And I'm a big architecture nerd. I love buildings and to be able to sit and plan out cities, build my own castles and strongholds and decorate. That's just really my jam. It's quite a vibe. Nice way to spend some time. And I
That
got the
actually
whole family just like sitting and building together. It's quite nice.
that makes me curious. Because, I know that you are passionate about architecture. I know you're passionate
Mhm.
about, games where you can build. Do you think one informed the other, like sort of chicken or the egg? Did you start getting into these games because you fell in love with architecture, or did you fall in love with architecture because you found that through these experiences?
Definitely part of picking my direction, like when I was trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do for college.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, I think both of us were pretty damn strong in school. We both had really good marks and had our choice of colleges. I didn't know what I wanted to do though. And I honestly thought back to in gaming, sitting and designing my characters, base building in Star Wars here,
Yeah.
laying out my stronghold. A lot of that really was some of the most fun that I had in games, being able to design things, and that weighed pretty heavily on my choice of what I wanted to do. I mean, architecture really was just, I mean, I had an experience where I saw a pretty impactful building to me and was like, maybe I could do something with this. But that was more of, I would have never gotten there if I hadn't already been aligned to design as what I wanted to do with my life. That was like my main interest of a skill to grow. I think we're going to talk a lot on the show about like progressing skill bars because I think that's how I view life a lot. Maybe that's just how many MMOs I've played over the years, but I honestly think that you could be amazing at anything. It's just, are you willing to sit and grind the skill? Because you can't be good at
Absolutely.
everything,
Absolutely.
just as in a game, like you might be skilling swords for so long, you pick up a mace and oh no, my skill's too low because I haven't used it. Like I
Right.
think that a lot of life, I mean, learning new programs, learning new ways of creating things or interacting with databases, anything that you go and eventually monetize, it's kind of just a skill bar,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's really figuring out not even what you can get amazing at, it's what you want to, and I think that I figured that out a little late. I mean, we're still young, but I
I was
wish I
about to
would have figured
say.
it out a little earlier. I think
Sure.
that it had really been framed as figure out what you're good at already, like where um what you're aligned with, what you have
Yeah.
potential in, what you have talent in, and I don't know. I'm not saying that's hoo-ha, but it's certainly not everything. I think that
Right.
you can figure out your way to be amazing at pretty much whatever.
I agree. I mean, that's that classic saying of hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard,
Yeah, for real. I think
so.
we're both devotees of the determination over motivation school of thought, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I mean, also that comes from like the type of material we both consumed growing up. Like I know you, weren't as big into the specific show, but like I watched a lot of like Dragon Ball and like Naruto,
Yeah, my
growing
anime
up.
phase came later.
Yeah, but I was in middle school. Actually, funnily enough, I would play this game and be on have Naruto pulled up on the TV or whatever. But no, and so much of that is about not necessarily having an inherent talent or ability or whatnot, and being able to work for it, and that being a totally viable path. And I think that's kind of informed most of the things I've been good at in life are things that I always say that I'm not really naturally good at anything. It's everything that I feel I've become good at is stuff that I've worked at and put time towards. And so I'm fully with you on that sentiment that I think it's about what you want to work at and what you want to put the time in and get that skill bar, so to speak, up.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I felt like that was my experience with school in general. I wasn't one of those savants that just walked in,
Hmm.
everything was easy,
Hmm.
but I got there because I was laser focused always, you know. And everybody gets to that point eventually, I think. It's just what path gets you there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is it's so hard to find the thing that you want to be laser focused on.
Yeah.
Because like if you told me right now like okay, you need to lock in on I don't know, basket weaving. Bro. Bro, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh yeah, dude. If I put my mind to it, I could just like cuz I don't care." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm
Like
I'm also not trying to be a weaver. I feel
right,
this.
right, right. And so that's the thing is also understanding that like there is a little bit of like the things that you like are going to inform what you're good at, and I think that's where maybe people talk about some of that like inherent ability, like, oh, this person is really good at this sport. It's okay, well, they were probably around it in some capacity, or at least some of the skill or ability that is needed to play that sport aligns with something that they're naturally interested in, and so they've just been doing it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that so much of who we are is and that includes the things that we choose to work hard at, um, comes from comes from the things that we sort of enjoy, regardless, even if we don't necessarily see it that way.
Yeah, for sure. You bring up a good point that like your environment, those people around you help shape your interests.
Sure.
I don't think that enough thought really goes into sometimes like what you really care about because sometimes it really is like what do I need to care about to fit in you
Right.
know I mean
Yeah.
I've definitely gotten into things taken on interests that they were tertiary to me. I was just found it mildly interesting, but all of
Yeah.
a sudden all your friends are doing it and you're like, okay, well, guess I have to get really good at Super Smash Brothers, you know.
Sure. Sure. No, I definitely feel that, and the Super Smash Brothers example is good because I feel like everyone had a phase at some point where it was like there were real stakes on those Super Smash Brothers games, man. Like it felt like so important, whether or not you actually cared about the game. Because I definitely am not a Super Smash Brothers person. If I was like left in a vacuum, but I've played a lot of it, because
But yeah, you've
it's
beaten
about
me quite a
yeah.
few times.
Well, dude, it's because, and that's exactly the reason that I've played so much is because my friends would put, sorry for my language, but they'd put belt to ass if you did not like, if you did not play seriously, There, I remember, I remember in high school one time, we were at one of our friends' house and we put on Smash, and the way it worked is when you picked a character, we were running ones, but when you picked a character, if you lost on that character, you had to stay on them until you won, and the
Boy.
winner would just rotate to the next person. So you basically could get beaten by the whole room and go around just multiple rounds or just chain losing if you picked like a troll character.
Ooh.
And there was one of my friends picked a troll character because he was thinking, at the time, like I said, I had to learn to get good. I was not initially, so he was like, oh, Michael,
Mm-hmm.
I'll beat him easy. He picked a troll character, and then I picked, the person that I'd been like grinding out trying to learn, and I beat him, and he had to go around the room like multiple rounds of losing to everybody. And the funny thing is he tried to make a rule. Oh, if you lose, you got to put like a stupid hat on. Well, because he was thinking, okay, yeah, we'll put Michael in a stupid hat. Well, yeah, he ended up in the hat, and we kept adding hats as we went around the room, and it ended up at the end he had like this tower. He looked like he was in like Toontown or something, just a stack of hats on his head. And so, um, yeah, no, Smash is just one of those games that I think is a really good example of for me and you both. Like, yeah,
But
my
yeah,
my
my
friends like it,
my
so I guess I do
college
too.
clique,
Uh-huh.
two of my friends ran the Super Smash Brothers club.
Okay, yeah.
And so we lived in the dorms together, and I'd be in one of their rooms. He had the console, so that was where we hung out. And yeah, learned the hard way. You had to get good at that game. So you pick the fun characters that you could be annoying with, but
Yeah.
against people who really know what they're doing, whoo,
Yeah, I'm
you're not
like in
gonna
the
have the best
bathroom.
time.
I'm like in the
Oh
bathroom
yeah.
typing on Google Smash Brothers tier list, trying to find someone I can like just pick up quickly.
I can't
Uh,
just call lightning down as Pikachu forever. Oh no,
yeah, why
I'm
can't
cooked.
I just down smash on Kirby just on cooldown?
I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit towards our professions. and talk about, I think we're both in a transition period. You're on a pretty clear path, and I think
Hmm.
I'm trying to find my way at the moment. I walked the obvious path and didn't find it to be in alignment with me. But how about you? I know that you're in law school right now.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you got there and where you think you're going.
Um, yeah, I mean it's interesting. I feel like so much of my path has been through circumstance, has been through luck, however you want to phrase that. Um, Initially, I hope you don't mind, I'll go back a couple steps just to explain the full
Yeah,
path. But
please.
I mean, we went to you and I, we went to a high school that had a lot of artists, a lot of creatives who went there.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we met doing music. We were
yeah,
spring
yeah.
musical buddies.
No, literally.
Both ended up in the top choir. Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, I mean there were so many creatives at that school, and what was it, like 75% of students were in either like band, chorus, orchestra, or like the theater, So even
Hmm.
there was a lot of like crossover between what students were doing. And so because of that, when we graduated, like so many of our peers were trying to pursue creative paths, I guess. Um, and I don't know. I feel like I've always been a little bit more organized, a little bit more I'm good with tracking things and making sure things get done. And like we were talking about earlier, just about setting your mind to something and accomplishing it. And so because of that, I kind of like naturally fell into this sort of management role, with a lot of stuff. And that turned
Yeah,
into
in high school.
uh, yeah, in high school. And that turned into me sort of getting into like artist management, and learning the ins and outs of how all that works. And there was a stint in a band, and you know how it goes.
Where'd you go in college? Because you didn't go straight to law school.
No, no, I went to Miami, Ohio for my first my freshman year, and then I decided that I did want to pursue sort of that artist management sort of path.
What were you
And
pursuing originally, though, out of high
I
school?
was pre-law. I was pre-law my
Pre-law.
freshman year,
Okay.
yeah. Um, and then I decided to move back, I guess, to the Chicago area and go to DePaul for performing arts management because they had a new program they just started. Miami didn't really have a like performing arts management program. They
Hmm.
had like the standard like theater department and or music department and whatnot. Um, but yeah, so I moved back to the area and I did my time. I did my 3 years that I had left on my degree. It was
Can
during
we?
COVID.
Yeah, that really disrupted my
Yeah.
college path too. I'd love to hear about, because I think it's important to talk about
Uh-huh.
the different experiences you had at those colleges. And now you could talk about, I mean, also COVID. I think everybody found their life disrupted in a different way. But
Hmm.
I know just from knowing you for a long time now that those were pretty different experiences for you, right? At those
Yeah.
different schools.
I
Can
was a
you
different
sum up
person.
like, yeah, the vibe, the rigor, and how you think that impacted you as a student
Sure.
and you like figuring out what you wanted to do?
Sure. Well, uh, yeah, I was a different person at both schools. At Miami, Ohio, I mean the only thing in Miami, Ohio is Miami, Ohio. Like there is nothing around it for miles.
Gosh,
So it's a real
college
like that is a
town.
co yeah, that is a college town. It's literally one of like the biggest party schools, and I didn't know this when I picked it. I found this out later. It wasn't like I was trying to, but uh, yeah. So I got really close with this group of guys, doing like an a cappella group because again, we came from such a creative like music background that's where I felt, I guess, comfortable, sort of like trying to find my people when you go to a new place. And I got super close with them, and so then whenever there were events or they would throw parties, they had their own house. It wasn't like a frat house or anything like that, but um, yeah, I got super into partying with them and having a good time, and I became this like hyper charismatic, like jokey, nothing serious version of me, which I had never really been before, especially at that period of my life. That was definitely very different for me. Um, and it was cool and I loved it, and I think if there was any way that I could have stayed at that school with those people and pursued what I felt I needed to pursue at the time, I would have done it. But that wasn't didn't really seem possible.
And that must have been hard, right? To choose to transfer
Yeah.
1 year once you'd already,
Yeah.
because I've going to college, it's hard to find your social group, right?
Uh-huh.
And once you do, I think both of us kind of landed into one,
Sure.
in a way,
Sure.
and got a little lucky. And to have to lose that so fast, that must have
Yeah.
been a hard decision.
Yeah, and
But
I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't think I really found that again. When I went to undergrad, I mean, it's a little better
yeah,
in law school now, but when I was doing my undergrad, I didn't like talk to anyone. Like, and I mean, it's school specific. DePaul's in the middle of the city, which, is very different than what I was saying about Miami, where that's it. So I mean, it's known as a commuter school. People come to school and they leave. There's not really like I mean, there is a community there. It's a fantastic school, but that's if you're like living up in Lincoln Park, up in the dorms where they have like a real campus. I was going to school like in the middle of the city, so I would show up, I would go to my classes, and I would leave. Um, which I mean, I mean, you went to school also in Chicago, so
yeah,
it's kind of like, I mean, like, was that your experience too? Like, because I know you lived there though, so I feel like it was definitely like there was more availability to at least be around and experience the sort of culture of the school.
for sure. I think that for those listening that aren't familiar with Chicago, it's pretty split. It's one of those cities that the wealth has concentrated in certain areas. So the north
Mm-hmm.
side, and especially your school, is a little bit more in the city than mine is. I mean, I went to the Illinois Institute of Technology, and that's on the south side, but it's a little more removed from the heart of the city and where everything's really going on. So, yes, I could get to the city, but it was a 25-minute train ride where for you, I'm assuming it was a little more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, you're if you're at DePaul, you are in the city. At either campus, you're either in the Loop, which is like where like if like the Bean and like the Sears Towers in the West Loop and everything around there, or you can go to the Lincoln Park campus, which is a little less of that city vibe, but you're still buildings on top of each other, and it's definitely has a very Chicago feel. I mean, it's not real Chicago where you go to like the South Side to the south where people are living.
Yeah.
um, but it's definitely definitely a bit more city than I think what your experience was.
Oh, yeah. And I think that my school was somewhere in between your two college experiences where
Yeah,
there were people commuting, there were people living on campus. I got really lucky and ended up dorming with some of my best friends at school. They were my neighbors.
that's awesome.
And yeah, I just kind of got adopted by an older friend group. They were all a year above me.
uh,
And I passed the vibe check, fit in, and just joined right in with them. It was great.
yeah, yeah.
But I couldn't do it again if I tried. It was such a, stroke of providence, fate, luck, whatever
Sure,
you
sure. And
call it.
I mean that's the thing is like so much of my I think the best things are things that do happen naturally. I'm not saying that the best things don't
Yeah.
take work, but I just mean where the situation occurs where it gives the opportunity to work towards something, I think has to come naturally, at least for the best things that have happened to me. And so yeah, get to your question, like being at DePaul, especially during COVID, that's when the School of Music had to like basically they're gonna have to shut down because you couldn't have senior shows, you couldn't have plays, musicals, um, couldn't have the choirs, the bands, you couldn't have any of it. And the school solution was, hey, we can live stream it, but there was an issue with that because when you get into um, copyright issues, licensing.
Yeah.
You need licenses to do the music. Well, when it was a live performance, that's for educational purposes. You don't need a license. When you're live streaming it, it's then considered to be a public forum, and the licensing is different. You need actual permission. And so this is how I got into the more legal side of stuff. I had been doing some performing arts management. I worked for a venue in the city doing some of that stuff, but I always enjoyed the legal side more. And yeah, when COVID hit, I did a sort of like internship type thing. It was a whole semester. It actually turned into 2 semesters for the school for DePaul, where I had to dig through like the U.S. code and figure out like what the law was on copyrights, and then build out this sort of like contact list of the different PROs, the performing rights organizations. They're the ones who sort of license out different music and make sure artists get paid. And And yeah, so I had to like then I was reaching out to them and talking with them and trying to figure out like, can we use your song please because the senior recitals are coming up and whatever. And that's where I really fell in love with like legal work, and that's
Yeah,
when I decided to go to law school.
beautiful. And how's law school been treating you? I know that you just finished your first year and now you're working a summer internship.
Yeah, yeah. Law school's a different beast, man. I think everyone's experience is going to be different. I come from a background where I've always at least enjoyed. I like challenges. I like things where I have to push myself, and law school is definitely that. Law school is definitely that. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was difficult, not in the sense of like, I wasn't understanding the concepts. I was grasping what was going on. I was doing my best to learn, but just the time commitment. You have to really take your time with what you're doing, and I know you're familiar with that. I mean, it's not like your degree. I know the hours you spent up late and just working on things to make it right because it's they're
Yeah.
tough they're tough career paths.
Yeah, architecture school is notorious, at least within the circles who are in the know, for all-nighter culture. And that's something that I think is still having some ramifications on my health to this day, which we'll get to that a bit later in the show. But I think that the culture of your program matters just as much as and of your field, just as much as like what you're going to be doing in
I
it,
agree. I agree.
because
Yeah.
different people working in different fields, like the cultures, really do impact the way that your relationship with work in general really plays out. I think that you and I are really coming from two of the most rigorous and like hardcore. I mean, if we got a doctor in here, we'd have the trifecta, which eventually we will on the show. Um,
No, I mean I completely agree with you. And to your point, even when I was initially emailing with law firms and then interviewing and talking with them, one of the biggest things that and I learned was important was the culture of the specific firm. Because it's and I've learned it even more in the few weeks that I've been actually like doing some of this work. It is really easy to get very upset or very stressed out and like want to like, you need something done a certain way and then it's not done that way. And it's like, if you don't have that sort of, I don't want to say maturity level, but understanding that, hey, this is just a stressful environment and a stressful work, like you can make it so much worse for everyone else around you.
oh yeah.
That was one of the biggest things that came out of my interviews and talking with different, associates, partners, and counsel. Like, it's already such stressful work. The work is already so hard, and so you don't want to work with people who are going to make it even harder, make it even worse. You should want to, no matter what you're doing, at least to some degree, want to work. At least like going in, like who you work with, um, because the work some days might suck.
Yeah, I think that that is something that, so as I've been looking for the next step in my career, I've really been surprised that culture has jumped to the top of my priority list. It's something that with my first job out of college, I kind of didn't even, it wasn't even on my radar. I was just like, how much are they going to pay me? How
Yeah.
close is it? How do I have to commute really far?
Right.
And that was pretty much it. I was like, does it
Right.
look like the work is somewhat interesting? I wasn't like thinking that I was going to get into the most exciting work right away, because it is a field you kind of have to pay your dues and do some of the less glamorous work to earn your way up to the design that I love so much. And yeah, I found out the hard way that a culture that not even, it doesn't have to be bad. If it doesn't align with you and who you are and what you value, and you go into an environment where people value different things than you, all of a sudden you're vibrating at a different frequency as everyone else. And that's a really tough spot to be in. Even if you're doing good work, they're doing good work. If you're not aligned in what you care about, all of a sudden wanting to make sure that it has a certain level of quality or that it's a certain level of speed or whatever, if that's not aligned with the people that are on your team, because even if people are above you in a working environment, I think at the end of the day, you all are a team. I mean, it's your collective name on it. It's the company that you're working for. And if you're not aligned, it's going to cause cracks, and those cracks cause problems and
Mhm.
stress. And
Mhm.
it matters so much more than I think anybody, at least going into work, ever talks about. It's something that once you've seen it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a really big factor.
I could not agree more, like, and what you say about a team, like, regardless of what level of seniority you are in an organizational structure, like, you have an objective, and I think it's poor leadership and poor leaders who um start to believe that they're better than, or start to believe that they are somehow, more right for something than anyone else. I understand now. I don't want to I don't want to sound like I'm saying everyone could just walk off the street and do everything. Like, no, there is something to say about experience in a field, and sort of paying your dues and learning how to do the job better. But I don't think that that means you should be excluding everyone's opinion, especially if you're all in the same room. You know, you're all there for a reason. Everyone has picked that profession or career for some reason, and I think that there should be, at least some deference paid to that.
It pays into the idea that those with the most power, who are the most respected, often speak the least. There's really something kind of, how could you not respect someone who sits down and listens to everyone and then decisively goes, all right, I hear you. This is what we need to do. And that's so much better than people sitting and screaming or yelling or calling people names, putting them down,
Right,
shifting the
right.
blame. There really is a level of immaturity that permeates so much of our culture. And I think that learning patience and learning to appreciate other people, even if their views are different than yours, are two of the most key skills to really fitting in any team.
Yeah. I agree. And to be honest with you, like, I think that's something that I've had to learn growing up. I think, when I was young, like elementary school, I was a chatterbox. Um I got in so much trouble at school for just talking all the time. Um and my grandfather, he still says this, but he used to always say this when I was younger as well, like, you learn more by listening. You're not gaining anything by constantly opining. And I think, I knew in the literal sense what he was saying when I was younger, but I don't think I really understood it until, um, honestly, quite recently. And I think even to some extent, I'm still fully learning what that means. But as I've aged, become much less outspoken in myself. Now, I have not become less opinionated. I have not become fake, but I
Yeah.
think that I've just learned that there is actually a lot of benefit, especially if you're talking about a professional setting, but I think also personally too, to being able to, it's a skill, like we talked about earlier. It is a skill to be able to um, shut up.
Yeah, and intentionally really like take in what others have to offer. I think that it's all too easy to sit there and try and always be thinking about what you're contributing, what you can bring. And if you're not fully locked in enough to hear what other people are bringing, that's where you get people repeating things that other people have said, making yourself look silly, even though you have good intentions. I think that's a
Yeah,
trap
yeah,
that has got to be avoided. Don't get too caught up on what you can bring to the point that you're ignoring what others are bringing.
correct. Yeah, I
You
agree.
said it well. There's a skill in shutting up. Kind of counterintuitive.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I don't think it's an easy thing to learn, and even like I said, I heard it growing up, and I still was like, yeah, yeah, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll, yeah, I'll learn to listen eventually or whatever, or I would think, oh, I am listening and whatever. But no, it's definitely something that I think that as I've grown up and as I've matured, I've realized how important it is, and I think that it is unfortunate. You mentioned that it sort of it is a permeates throughout our cultures. I believe how you said it, that there's so many people who are in positions of leadership and of privilege who are able to um, use that position to inflict their and sort of forcibly inflict their my way or the highway, their will upon other people who really don't need that or deserve it. And I just think it is such a sign of poor leadership and a sign
Yeah.
of poor um, personal development, I suppose, is the word I would use.
The world's full of petty tyrants.
Yeah,
And being able to recognize them helps you to not fall victim to the power that they wield and sometimes abuse.
yeah. What
For
what's
sure.
what's been your experience with that? Like, just throughout. because I again, I know I'm trying not to use my external knowledge of you to to steer the conversation, but we have known each other a long time, and I know that you have been
Yeah.
in situations where there have been like some not fantastic leadership, and I don't just mean professionally. I mean even just throughout life. We both went to the same school. We both have a lot of
Yeah.
experience in that sense. But then regardless of that, outside of that, we both went into very demanding um, paths. We're both in very demanding. We've made very demanding career choices, and so I'm curious what your experience has been with that and how you sort of have learned or are learning to navigate it.
Yeah, I'll say that I think growing up, if you are lumped into the gifted pool, right,
Uh-huh.
you're one of the academically strong students, you kind of almost get less uh restrictions, less oversight. It's just here's a whole bunch of stuff to do, get it done, we know you can. And so I would say I almost had more free reign than a lot of other kids growing up in that sense. So I got really confident in, managing my own time. And I think that's something that like I've always had a really hard time working around other people. So I would just do what I had to in school and then really grind out at home anything that really needed to be worked through. And yeah, I think I had nothing but pretty good experiences throughout until like going to college. I think in college, I had a professor in particular who almost made me drop out.
Well,
And
what happened there?
he didn't believe in me at all. In fact, I mean, he would rip up the work that I stayed up all night working on many times, throw it across the room, tell me I didn't belong there, I didn't fit in, that I didn't have any future. And to be honest, I kind of just stayed in the program to spite him.
Huh?
More even than wondering, like I was questioning if it was the right thing for me. But if you have somebody challenge you like that and you rise to it, there is a very strong sense of like fulfillment and confidence you get from that. And so right after that, the next year I had a professor who I absolutely love. He supported me so much. He believed in me. He actually taught me more than I had learned in my entire time in college up to that point. He really like took me on as a mentor, and I have nothing but appreciation and respect for him. And I had a lot of really good professors to balance out the ones that were negative, but I definitely had a mixed bag. I think that those who were not supportive were challenging, and I think that both of those experiences help you to figure out who you are and what matters to you and how much you want whatever goal you're pursuing. Once I got into the working world, yeah, I would just say that every person I worked with had such different personalities, and it was a challenge to have to learn how to navigate those on a daily basis, not just like interacting with them individually. One person's a little more neurotic in this way. Somebody cares a lot about this. Somebody is really wants you to communicate about this thing. You can pick all that up. What's hard is navigating the web of those personalities interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's a skill I'm still working on. Because I've definitely, made somebody mad by not realizing that how one person would interact with another. And yeah, it gets complicated.
No, and honestly, like especially with the environment I'm in now, professionalism is really important, and being able to sort of uh, there's also, the types of people who go into law have very strong personalities, and that is a great thing. I think it's an important thing for many reasons, but it can be really hard when it comes time to start balancing those things, and especially when you're trying to um, be good at what you do and learn from as many people as you can, and grow as much as you can, and you're in a situation where you that opportunity is available if you can manage it, and so I think that yeah, I definitely agree. That is a completely different type of environment. It's a completely different type of world than anything else I've had to do before.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now, Michael, I'd like to ask you something that is kind of a little serious, but I want to ask everybody who
Uh-oh.
comes onto the show, and it's not anything heavy, don't worry, but it
No,
is
you're
something
good.
I really want you to ponder for a moment because I mean it in a very I think it's good to get a sense. What is most important to you right now at this point in life? Like if you could give me a couple things, like what really are you aligning your path towards? What's your North Star right
Okay, well, listen, I know you said ponder, but this is something that I think about all the time.
now? Okay.
So I do have an off the cuff answer to that. Um, Prerequisite before I say the answer. I think that one thing that's been really important to me when I'm doing hard work, when I'm in an environment where I know that I'm going to be like really stressed, is to know what my North Star is, so that way when I start to get really tired or I don't want to do XYZ anymore, I can kind of remember why I'm doing it. And so that's
Yeah.
why I immediately know what the answer is, and the answer to that is family. And I don't mean like obviously my mother, my grandparents, my family, they're all very important to me. But I mean, like I have a very clear vision for what I want my future to look like, you know.
Hmm.
Um, my current partner is really important to me, and the sort of life that I envision for us that we've discussed that we want to build. We've been together a long time now,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that to me has always kind of been, especially when it comes to the current stage of life that I'm in, going to law school, working hard to get to a firm, um, doing the kind of work that I can do to be compensated at the amount that they compensate for, has all been for the end goal of like um, having, a wife, and I want at least 3 kids, and I'm very, very clear on that being my goal. And I grew up to be, serious for a second. Money wasn't like, it wasn't like an
Yeah, for either
issue,
of us.
but no, but it was constantly a worry. Does that make sense? And I think it's maybe the hindsight glasses that I can say it was never an issue, but at the time I didn't know that it would never be an issue.
Hmm.
There's definitely times where things looked tough, and I'll be honest, that's a lot of credit to my mother for not worrying me with those things, even though we weren't always in the best financial position.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure that my family, and I don't even just mean like when I say that, I don't even just mean like wife and kids. I also mean my relatives that I currently have now, and my friends, um, that I can help them no matter what happens. I think that I don't know why growing up I sort of fell into this role of I try to. I'm not always great at it, but like looking after people,
Hmm.
being there for people. I think that I've always kind of been a good ear, a good shoulder. Um, and I don't know if maybe that's because when I was younger I felt like I didn't necessarily have that, but so I think that's kind of the most important thing to me, is making sure that I'm in a position that if someone, the worst thing, the thing that kills me is when I can't help someone. I can't fix it. I can't make it better. And there's going to be plenty of things where that's the case, but I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And so and so being able to put myself in a position, and the reason I work hard is so that I am in a position that because there's been times where I haven't been able to, you know,
Hmm.
um, and those suck. And I can speak about it happily now, and be cheery and joke and whatnot. But there's been some periods of my life, as there is with everyone's, where uh, shit gets dark, and it
Yeah.
can happen fast, and so it's really important to me that if I can avoid that for anyone else, or at the very least give someone the option to have someone they can go to with anything, that I can be that person. So I think for me, my initial answer of family, it's family, but it's also in a sense personal development, and it's growing myself into the type of person that can be relied upon for everything. Because right now I'm not that person. I wish I was, but um, yeah, no, I'm not that person yet. And
I, th-
so that's to me the sort of guiding North Star. That's what's on my mind in terms of where I'm at in life.
I think that's beautiful. And it's something that I think is important about that helps it, I'm sure, to be fulfilling is that your answer isn't just about you. It's about those you care about. And I think that really aligns with me
Hmm.
and what I've been thinking.
Hmm.
I also just want to point out, I mean, yeah, the resources aren't always there when you need them, but
Yeah.
as you said, I know you are always a person who's there when people need support. Even if you don't have the money or the resource or whatever it is, the power to fix whatever they're going through, you're always there to support people. And I think that that is a really wonderful thing about you and something to aspire to. It's something I really respect about you.
I appreciate that. And let me just say, and this is not me playing the oh let me say something nice back game. Genuinely, genuinely, there's been time you see those stupid things where it's like, uh, okay, gun to your head, you get $10 million if this person doesn't pick up. Like who are you calling? Like someone who would never answer the phone. You would be the last person on my list for that. Because no, seriously, like whenever I've been like, man, I just need to like make a phone call, I don't think there's ever been a time where you like haven't picked up. And so I think that's one of the reasons we're friends. I think that's
Yeah,
one of the reasons that we get along is because I think we both have that sort of characteristic. Um,
I think
but
that when you rank our priorities, our close friends for both of us are
yeah,
like top of the list.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so that then makes me curious. Like, is your answer similar to mine? Is it? Do you have different things that maybe are a because to be fair, like while these things are my top priority now, there's also like stuff slots in and out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That could be my priority, but when I'm in the middle of final season, like okay, I do need to be like working.
yeah. No, you lock in pretty hard. I've seen that.
Unfortunately.
I I would say that yes, my answer is similar. It is a little more distinct. I don't I think being able to provide for people in your life and wanting to have a family are both two things that are important to me. But for me right now, I mean, yes, my family, I have two little young cats that I'm taking
Adorable,
care
by the
of,
way.
my parents, and I want all of them to be well. Anything to help take care of them. Um, but I'm really in this phase of personal growth right now. It's how I got into podcasts is trying to find ways to progress, fill in the gaps where therapy wasn't really doing it. And I think that that's why I want to contribute to the podcast space because I think it's such a useful platform for people who are feeling a little lost to go and hear other people's perspectives. You might not find, I mean, we're not experts in anything other than living life as some guys, you
Yeah.
know. We're very knowledgeable about some stuff, but I think this, if you want a show that's just talking to the people at the top of their field, this isn't the one. It's really more about finding out like what's going on with everybody else, especially if you're feeling isolated. And so I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to get my own stats up right now, bro. I went
Mm-hmm.
so hard on the int, like trying to get my intelligence up, trying to
Sure.
get book smart, do
Sure.
well in school. Like, do well in school was just like number one priority, do that. And then I graduated from the school I wanted to with the degree I wanted to. Like, I only applied to one college. I was pretty confident that it was going to work out. And yeah, when I finished that, I felt really empty inside because I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been working on any of the other things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You've had this beautiful relationship, and that's something that I'm trying to attract, trying to bring into my life. So I've been working on my health,
Mm-hmm.
physically, mentally, and trying to do everything I can to align myself with some good monetary situations, find a job that makes me feel really fulfilled, talking about trying to find something that aligns with your values, your morals, and what you value in culture. I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's a hard thing to get right, but in anybody's life that I've seen them get into a work culture that's aligned with them, they're
Yeah.
so much happier, even if they're doing the shit work. Um, so that's what I'm really in this phase right now. My North Star is anything to like improve myself right now. I'm trying to become the best version of myself. I had a
Sure.
friend in college and he was like, I just need to peak. I need to get to the very
Bro.
best. He was on that Dragon Ball grind and I wasn't there
Yeah.
yet. I was like, I just need good grades, man. I just need to pass these
Yeah.
classes. But I think I'm getting it now. I'm starting to get into that mindset of anything I could do to improve. I want to be the very best version of myself for the people in my life. I want to be able to show up. I want to be able to be like that perfect boyfriend. I mean, I know we're never going to get there, but as close to it as possible. I want to be the most perfect version of myself that I can. So, really trying to keep that as the direction that I'm lined up in.
Sure. You know, I gotta say, like, I have done a lot of different. I've gone through a lot of phases in my life. You know that.
But yeah.
I've gone through phases where I am, like I said, even when I was at Miami, Ohio for my freshman year of college, I felt like I was a complete different person. You know, my priorities were not anywhere near what they are now. You know, I was, it was very different. And so I think one thing I've had to learn, just because you mentioned the sort of just grind and improve and whatnot is that I spent a lot of time unhappy, and when I look back on those times, um, while maybe some stuff was going on that I still think wasn't great and
Hmm.
could still make me unhappy, if I think about who I was, I was happy with that person for the time that he was in. You know, when I look back
Hmm.
at myself, for example, at the time when we graduated high school, at the moment I graduated, I was miserable. Like,
Yeah.
probably that's the second most miserable I've ever been in my entire life
Hmm.
for an extended period of time. And I just wanted to be different, and that's part of the reason I went away to a school where I could be a completely different person because I didn't like who I was. But looking back on that person now, first of all, I think Jesus, he was a kid, and he was putting way too much pressure on himself to be more than that. But also like he was a good kid, and that is something that you don't get back. I don't mean like that person doesn't come back. I think I absolutely could be that person still, and that person is still me, just a little bit older. What I'm
Hmm.
saying is you're never going to be in that time again. And I can look at different moments of my life and think about, man, I just want to be different. I need to improve. I need to change this. I need to change that. Yet in retrospect, I am satisfied with at least who I was. And so I do want to say, like, absolutely, a journey for personal growth is important, and I think we should all be striving to be better always. I think that is the only way life in general for everyone will get better. We are living in some unfortunate times, just in the world and in communities, and there's so much isolation, and that doesn't get better unless people try to make it better. Like, for example, you with this podcast, but I think it's important to take a step back and recognize that, hey, I still have these goals. I still want to be this. I still want to do that, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I
I think
think
that's so important.
I'm at the best place I've been in quite a while. I'm
Sure.
definitely happy with where I'm sitting
Hmm.
today.
Sure.
And because for me, one of my lowest points in life came after college,
Hmm.
trying to
Hmm.
figure out what the hell I wanted to do, who I was without this like metric to hit,
Yeah.
no longer having a grade to give me value.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I agree. I think that it's just what I'm working towards right now.
Right. Right. No, I totally get that. It's something that I still have trouble with. I think my biggest problem historically, if you were to call up my therapist and he could talk about me without breaking confidentiality, uh, he would say that historically my biggest problem has been not being able to be present, and to recognize when things are good and when
Yeah.
you can sort of leave things alone and uh, so yeah, that is just something I've been working on, and I felt pertinent to say in that moment that like, it's okay to just enjoy where you're at. And I think that obviously I don't think that's necessarily always the advice I would have wanted, especially when I was miserable.
But yeah.
But kind of like what I said, like my grandfather used to tell me, you learn more by listening, and maybe I wasn't ready to hear that at that time.
Hmm.
It's still rang true. And being able to be happy with where you're at, I think is the only way you'll ever be happy with life in general because that's all you have is the moment that you're in.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little corny, but I truly do believe that gratitude is
Hmm.
such an important part of keeping your mind healthy. Taking a little bit of time every day. I do it through prayer, but I mean, you can do it just through meditation or just taking a second to be grateful for the things that are going well, to feel proud of everything that you've done to get yourself where you are, and giving yourself some grace. I think that that's something that we don't talk about enough, is just like having some understanding that not everything's in your control, and you're probably doing your best, or at least the best that you can in the situations you've been placed in. So, not being too hard on yourself. It's so easy to be too hard on yourself these days when you're constantly seeing what everybody else is up to. You're comparing yourself to people your age who are doing
Hmm.
way better, you think, but they're just progging different bars, just because they're a little ahead in one area, they might be lacking in something that you have in abundance. Like right now, I have an abundance of time with my family, and I'm trying to not take a second of that for granted. I would hate to look back on this time where I have all of this time to spend with my folks and think, man, I didn't take advantage of that.
I feel similarly, and it's especially true. My partner just finished medical school, and being trying to find time to spend together when you're
It's been a
a
struggle for you. I know that.
yeah, but that's the thing is especially now when I'm, actively working at a law firm, which is just time consuming, and then she's a practicing doctor, like it's not easy to find time. And during, like COVID, we were both still, in school. I was an undergrad. She was at the very start of medical school.
Hmm.
Like that, we had so much time. All we did, all class were online. We could just wake up and really do nothing, and we just had nothing but time to spend with each other. And
Yeah.
that is something that I wish I had. I mean, I definitely it was appreciated in the moment, but I just wish I had appreciated it a little more because I don't think I realized not just wow, we had so much free time, but how little free time we would have later.
Yeah, I think that's one of life's cruel ironies, is that you'd never truly realize what you have till it goes, right?
Sure.
And yeah, finding time to appreciate what you have in the moment. Yeah, it's really important.
I agree. I could not agree more, quite honestly.
I talk a little bit about, I mean, I know you're pretty early on in your career path, but you're working in the field right now. So far, what do you think your greatest obstacle has been? And what are you the most proud of?
Um, well, okay. I think they're the same answer. I don't mean to.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, being remaining myself. I think that it's easy for.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's easy for me. Like I said, I grew up always wanting to like be there for people and be supportive, and I sort of became this like chameleon type where
Yeah, we both were wearing masks to fit in.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that um, it's easy to fall back into those habits almost as like a safety blanket, to protect yourself or whatever. And working in the legal field is stressful, and there's a lot of people that you want to make happy, and that you want to like you, and that you want to work with you more. And I think the biggest thing for me has been it's is remaining myself because there's been times already even where and I mean law school and working now over the summer at this firm, like it would be easier to just do that, to just play the chameleon and to sort of do what I need to do to put across whatever persona I want people to perceive of me. But I find that people have actually liked me more when I don't do that. And
Hmm.
I think also, it's easy to fall into habits where, like, for example, my partner and I were talking a week or so ago just about, we were doing like a little check-in of just like how you feel everything's going with like your work and life and family and stuff. And because we talk every day, but one of the things I won't get into like my relationship right now, but one of the things that's really easy to do when you're with someone all the time and you talk to someone all the time is to forget to like talk about like just hey, how are you doing, because it just comes about the
Yeah.
things. And anyway, she and I were talking about how life was going because I had just started this new position and all, and she was saying that she felt that there were times where I um, was almost uh, not changing, but acting differently than what she would consider my normal. And to me, that was just me, okay, well, I'm at a law firm now. I have to act a certain way and I have to present myself in a certain way and I need to work certain hours and I need to do certain things to be successful because I had this image of what um, a successful lawyer looks like.
Yeah.
And it happened at the very start of law school, and it happened again at the very start of this position. Is that it's hard for me, I've learned, to not default to that sort of chameleon. Um, but certainly by the end of my first year of law school with my classmates, and I feel like now I'm getting into a groove with work that I'm really proud that I am, acting like me. Um, maybe a professional version of me, but
Yeah.
it's
We
still
all
me.
have so many different facets, right? You
Yeah.
have to present different sides of yourself at different environments.
Hmm.
But that's wonderful that this what you're presenting is feeling authentic. And I think keeping authenticity while also, being able to fit in
Hmm.
somewhere.
Hmm.
It's a real tricky path to navigate.
I
I'm really
agree.
happy for you that you're finding success in that.
I appreciate that. And I think that the authenticity portion of it is like, do you want to be somewhere where the authentic version of you isn't happy? Like if you're one of the things that
Yeah.
I just feel like I've learned is if you're constantly um pretending to be something that you're not, or not even necessarily pretending, but just um not being yourself, not seeing what you like, is that you don't know what you like. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
what you don't like, and you don't know uh I don't think it's so deep as who you are, but certainly it can get as deep as like the type of people you surround yourself with and how you view yourself and whatnot. And so yeah, I think that that's really important. I think that I am really proud of just even the consideration of that fact in my life right now because it would be really easy to just be super busy and just dive into work and never think about that stuff. And so while it is my biggest obstacle and it is really difficult, I am very proud of how that's all sort of working out.
I am curious. I'm going to be asking this to everyone who comes on the show because I think it's such an interesting thing to dive into. You've touched on it a little bit, but do you feel like you fit in with the people in your profession? Like how I couldn't imagine that very many people feel like, oh, I'm John Lawyer, right? I'm the
Yeah,
lawyer guy.
yeah.
But if you had to say like, what's your experience with that been? Because I know for myself, I am pretty atypical for an architect. I don't need control.
Uh-huh.
I think that that's the stereotype that comes with an architect, somebody who wants to be sitting and detailing every little thing. I'm more of a free spirit creative who just wants to push the boundaries of technology and
Uh-huh.
design. So I've had a pretty hard time finding my niche. There are people out there who are similar to me, but I wouldn't say that they're like John Architect,
Uh-huh.
the guy you think of when you think of my profession. How about you? How's it been for Michael
Man,
in his experience being a lawyer
I
on that
think
path?
yeah, no, I think that it's been really cool. I was always I mentioned when I was younger, very talkative. I promise I'm getting to your answer. I'm just taking a roundabout way to get there.
Yeah, lawyers.
Yeah, and see, there you go. So maybe that's uh, a little teaser at where my answer is going. But I've always been a very talkative person, I mentioned, and during COVID, I wasn't that because it was really easy just to never talk to anyone.
Hmm.
And so I had felt like for the years past that I had sort of lost that skill to be able to be charismatic and walk into a room and talk to people and just start a conversation and whatnot. And it's not something I've ever really liked doing. I think I'm naturally sort of an introvert. Um, but coming into law school, and especially when you're trying to get work at these big firms, you know that your summer's coming up. You have to go to these events and just walk into a law firm and just start talking to people, and you have to walk into a classroom and just meet up with your professors and your classmates and whatever. And um, in that sense, I think that skill, all I do all day is talk to people, and so in that sense, I think that I do fit in because the people who are in this field, whether or not they're actually introverted or extroverted, there is some level of they like people, they like
Hmm.
interacting with people. Whether or not they want to be able to control how much interaction they have is that may vary. Um, but for me, I think that The point I'm making is that I've come to realize that everyone's just, you know, we're all in the same boat, And when I was younger and before I had gotten into this career path, I used to think like, oh, okay, like I'll make it like high school, like, oh, those people, they play sports, okay, they're like athletes, they're a certain way, and they might have certain beliefs and act certain ways or whatever, and these people are, um, they're like the book nerds, they're the bookworms, and they like they're gonna act a certain way and be a certain way and talk a certain way. And what I've come to realize, and I think part of it does just come with growing up, is that man, everyone's in the same boat. They might have different interests. Like this person might like to play racquetball on their weekends, and this other person might like to boot up the latest like virtual virtual novel, visual novel. But like we have a lot more in common with people than we think, than I used to think,
Yeah.
than we don't. And so in terms of fitting in, like I think I've always been able to find things about people, even if on a whole I'm not like agreeing with them, or wouldn't naturally be like, oh yeah, we'd make a lot of sense as like friends. There's always something about someone that you can at least appreciate and that you can connect with, and I think that's really hard to learn right now. I think I got lucky in learning that. I don't know why I've started to think that way. Um, but it is a belief that's been growing in me, specifically while I've been working.
What a well measured and very lawyer-esque answer to give. But that's
No,
good.
I mean, no, listen. I don't mean to say like I like everyone. I don't. I really don't. There's plenty of people that I like quite honestly can't stand. But what I'm saying is that I have been alone before, and I have been in situations where I didn't have people to talk to, and I didn't have people to interact with,
Mhm.
and I think I've just come to appreciate what a gift it is to be able to, I don't know, just be around people you disagree with sometimes.
Yeah, it's important. You can learn a lot in an environment like that that challenges you.
I couldn't agree more. I'm just curious, um, because I know that you've sort of had different opinions throughout the time I've known you. Um, where do you find yourself landing in terms of, on a whole, like, do you feel like you're leaning introverted these days, extroverted these days? Do you find yourself, seeking and wanting to pursue deeper connections with people, or do you feel happy with where you're at? I have not checked in with you in terms of that and recently.
It's a really good question. I would say, I think that the core group of friends that I have right now is really strong. It's never been stronger. And that's something that's come through a real period of trial and testing the relationships in my life. I think that when you finish college and all your friends move away, you really find out who your friends are, especially when you go through a little period of hardship like I did. You start to realize who's really there for you and who's just saying they're there for you. So, in moving away from like the city I was going to college in, now I'm out in the suburbs. I'm surrounded by less people. I think that my social circle has moved a lot more online. But I've definitely rebuilt and tapped into some of the social networks I had in our hometown, and I'm finding new connections, things that I have in common with people that, I mean, they were just uh, friendly acquaintances. It turned into some blossoming, really wonderful friendships. And I would say that in terms of introvert and extrovert, I've always seen myself as having two sides. I fall somewhere in the middle. And I think that I need to feed both sides of myself in that sense. I'm not somebody who wants to be alone all the time, but I'm also not somebody who hates being alone. I think that I really find it rejuvenating sitting down with a friend or like in a small environment of people that I trust. I find that really recharging and refreshing. So I love the late night gaming sessions with the boys. I need that in my life, or else I start to feel a little hollow. I feel a little worn. I feel a little like I haven't had a place to really be the raw version of myself, because I feel like I am someone who puts on a very strong professional facade whenever I'm out and about, try and present it in a way that sort of same chameleon wearing a mask. That's something I've always a tactic I've always employed subconsciously to try and cause as little friction as possible because I am very extroverted. I do love going out to parties, going out and being with people, getting outside. I don't get stir crazy. I'm not somebody who like needs to be doing something constantly. I'm very happy being at home. I'm a homebody, sitting with my cats, doing something productive and fulfilling. I'm set. Give me a nice cup of tea. I'm cheeky. But I think that if I don't ever go out to a concert or hang out with friends, go and get a slice of pizza or something, get a drink at the bar, I feel like that's missing and it kind of eats at me. In the same way that if I don't have time to sit with my friends or spend some time alone, I mean, I do a lot of writing and I listen to a lot of music. I need a balance of those things in my life to really feel fulfilled. And I think that I do feel fulfilled in this moment. I'd love to have more of the people you bump into and just say, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah,
I'm somebody who loves the chit chat
yeah,
with, I mean, I'd be talking to anyone and everyone out and about, and I'm not really in very many environments at the moment where I have those like casual connections. I think everybody in my life is very intentional right now, but I'm grateful for that. So, yeah,
yeah. No, I mean, what I'm hearing is that, you appreciate balance and that you appreciate being able to have
big time.
the at least the agency over your own time and space to be able to choose, one, the people that you are around, but two, what you do with those people, or if you do nothing at all, then you're alone and taking time for yourself.
I'd love to
That's
hear
what I'm
your
hearing.
answer to your question as well. Are you feeling
Mhm.
introverted, extroverted, and
Uh,
how are your social circles looking?
I mean, look, I don't know, man. I think I am naturally, like I mentioned, I am naturally an introvert.
Hmm.
The whole being charismatic and talking to people and doing things with people does not come naturally to me. I think that, maybe it's something you can work on.
It's so surprising because I think that anybody who knows you would think that you're an extrovert because you
Yeah,
you do have a very commanding presence in a room. Like I think you
yeah,
have a very magnetic personality. So it's a little surprising
I
to hear
appreciate
that.
that.
So where do you find your energy? Where do you recharge?
By being alone, I find my energy by being alone. When
And gaming,
yeah,
I'm
yeah. Well,
sure.
that's what I was gonna say is that I think I first realized that I was an introvert when I remember I was playing this game and I was driving my speeder across Hoth. I had Pandora before I was on Spotify. I was literally like 14, 13 or 14.
Hmm.
Um, Playing this game is when I was like, man, I feel great right now. I hadn't spoken to anybody that day. I remember that specific day was a day where I could probably count on both hands the amount of days I've had where all I did was just game, and there was no one texted me, no one said anything, and like back then, I felt like I was like, man, I feel great, dude. I've been gaming all day. It's like 2 in the morning. I got Pandora going. I was listening to God. It had to have been like Chitty Bang. This makes me feel old. Opposite of adults. Yeah, no, I was literally listening to that song driving across Hoth on my speeder, and I was like, man, I feel so energized right now. Like I feel so good, and that's when I realized, like, damn, like this is what energizes me is being able to just be by myself. However, um, later into high school, because I was always around people, especially senior year, I was in a lot of organizations, I was in a lot of groups, and so I was at school, I was surrounded by people all the time. I think that I had to sort of adapt and learn new ways to get that recharge, and I think maybe it wasn't perfect, but just having time to just even just sit back with people and go out to eat at 2 a.m., the way you
Yeah.
mentioned with a close group of friends, just being able to like game and just have a late night session and just have a good time. Like you have to learn how to get that, and so I think in terms of yeah, I mean to your to your question of how I come across as charismatic, I think that's through a lot of effort. And I think that I have a bit of a storage built up of um extrovert energy from the amount of time I've been able to spend gaming alone.
And it really sounds like that's a skill that you've built up over time because just like anyone who's truly skilled at something, it looks effortless. It seems like you're somebody who loves being around people. So I'm fascinated to find out
Dude, no,
that
I
that's draining for you.
yeah, yeah, it is extremely, extremely draining, and that's, yeah, I don't know why I am like that. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I turned out that way, and because honestly, if I were to write down on paper the things that I enjoy that make me feel energized, the things I don't like, you would think that I was a shut-in hermit who like never went out. And I force myself to do those things. I force myself to go out because I know that they're, good for me. And like I said, I care about my friends and family. I care about people generally. And so being able to be there for them and show up for them makes me happy. I wouldn't say it's energizing, but it makes me happy. And so I think it's just trying to balance it. And I'll be honest with you, like especially even now in my firm, they're very clear like, in terms of their culture. They want people to, yes, they are lawyers, but they're also people and they have families and they have other things that are important to them. They have other things that are more important to them, like there's a partner I was working with on a project this past week, and we were going to have a meeting, and he said, sorry, my daughter had a doctor's appointment, and she said she wanted daddy there, so daddy was going to be there. Like that's just how, that's what he said. It was like, the firm's culture is that you're not going crazy, and so, but because I like to avoid traffic driving into the city, I live out in the suburbs, and if I wait too long, it gets very bad rush hour. Um, I leave my house at like 5:30 in the morning, and that's another thing. I'm not a morning person either, I am a night
Yeah.
owl by nature. That would, if I was left in complete isolation, I am a night person. However, if you talk to anyone who met me in the past year since I've been in law school, they would think I was a morning person. I wake up every day at 4 is late for me, and I get up, I get ready, and I go into work. I'm there by 6 a.m. You know, even when I was in law school, I would be in the library the moment it opened. The school opened at 6 a.m. and I'd be in there to walk in the doors. Um, but that takes effort, and that's a choice I've made. And I maybe there is a little bit something that I should get checked out as to why I'm like that. But
No, I don't
um,
I don't think there's any right or wrong way to be. I think that what's important is you're taking what energizes you. I know that you're taking time to find that energy because otherwise you would have burned out by now. That's something that's
well,
yeah, I think we've both had our own experiences with burnout, but you seem to me to really have it to a point where you finally tuned what you are and aren't making sacrifices on so that you can still operate, you can still show up at that level that you want to. And I think I mean, as long as you're able to get it to the point where you're fulfilling all of your duties and obligations and you still feel true to yourself, you still feel like you have energy coming from somewhere in your life
mhm.
and you're not putting out way more than you're able to recharge, then I wouldn't say you need help in any means. I think it's just that everybody has to balance that because I certainly wouldn't choose to go to work early in the morning. I'm a
Yeah,
night owl too.
yeah.
And yeah, it would be a little too hard to organize society if everybody was running by their perfect operating settings. You got to find a way to operate in the world as it is.
Well, I mean, also society, let's be honest, is unfair towards certain people. Like for example, I am
Oh, yeah.
left-handed. Um, yeah, good luck finding left-handed scissors in elementary school. That
What
was like
hands do you use your
impossible.
mouse with?
I'm right-handed with my mouse because that's just how
Yeah.
most of them come, and I didn't know I could get a left-handed one until I had already learned to use the other way.
Hmm.
Who knows? I could have gone pro if I had started with my left hand. That's a what if, but um. So I definitely think that, people are just different, but some things in life, in the world, are optimized at the very least for certain characteristics. Another thing, I think morning people have, like, being a night owl, you realize how much stuff just is, everything's closed when you're ready to, like,
Oh,
go out and
yeah.
do stuff. And you're
We
like,
love
man,
7-Eleven.
like,
Eleven. Not
Yeah,
sponsored, but
yeah, like dude, it's ridiculous, man. Like you can't do shit except for like game and go to like Denny's. And honestly, COVID took that away from us too. So like so I think it was just too to me it got to be too difficult to keep being a night owl, even though that's where I think I am happiest. Um and so I've just
yeah.
sort of willed myself into being a morning person, and it's easy now, because that's just what I'm used to being up and about. But that was a very conscious decision and choice to make, the same way that it was very conscious of me to at least act and appear extroverted to uh, people that know me.
Fascinating. Speaking of people who know you, I want to hear a little bit, delve in a little more into your social circle. So your friends that you have right now, I'd love to hear about, like, if you broke it down into percentages or, kind of what takes the lion's share. Are a lot of your friends people you grew up with, people you met in college, people you're meeting in your professional life,
Yeah.
people you're meeting as an adult outside of work? Like, if you had to break those categories up, where would you say your social circles lie?
Well, when it comes to talking to people, 75 to 80% is my girlfriend. I and that's one because I don't talk to that many people, but it's also two just because we talk so much. But outside of that, if I had to be realistic,
Who's
just in terms
active
of,
in your life?
yeah, in terms of raw numbers, yeah, I think work colleagues. Colleagues is such a weird word, man. People I friends from work, the other, like, for example, the other people who are summers like I am at the firm. Um, they've all been super cool. Everyone's been really nice. So I talk to them a decent amount, also just because we're always at work together. Um, Classmates, I mentioned when I was at Miami, Ohio, I had a good group of friends. But then when I went to DePaul for undergrad, because it's such a commuter school, like, you don't really see people. So I just came
Hmm.
and went, and I didn't really talk to anyone. Um, Now, I guess in law school, there's a little bit more. I'm slightly more social, where there's a couple of people that I will talk to. I think I literally went out one time to the bar with like my classmates. Um, and everyone was super cool. They were super excited to see me there. Everyone was like, I can't believe you came out. Like, we see you in class, but you never actually. Um,
Yeah.
and so that was cool. But now it's on summer, and they invited me out to like one thing, and I had a firm event I had to go to, and so who knows if I'll get another invite to something.
Hmm.
And and then outside of that, I think friends from growing up, friends from elementary, middle, high school, I think because of TeamSpeak, Discord, just games in general, we've all kept in touch more than maybe previous generations did. And I mean, not all of them, people come in and go out based on like their work and their school and their personal whatever.
Yeah, but that's
But
more the select and the few, right?
yeah, yeah, no,
Hmm.
I think I could count on two hands the amount of people that I still talk to from like um, public school, like the K through 12 sort of
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah, I think that for me, I think a lot of my professional life stays professional.
Uh-huh.
My real friends that I hang out with, I sit in two social groups, one online and one in person more. I think the
Hmm.
in-person group is people that we grew up with, and really more a friend group of a good friend of mine. And my online friend group is the same thing. A really good friend that I made in college brought me into his gaming, which to me I found really surprising because growing up I was always kind of the guy forming a social group, trying to like befriend people, pull them in, make them be friends with each other. I think you got a little taste of that with my Dungeons and Dragons group for a bit, pulling in people from different parts of my life, trying to
Sure.
get them to be friends. So it's been really interesting to just kind of get adopted into other friend groups and make your own space within it. But who do you game with? Who are you hanging out with in real life, and who are you gaming with?
No, I mean the gaming is for sure my K through 12 friends.
Hmm.
That's, I mean, like I said,
The
I think that's how
real
we
ones, the
how we stayed in
longtime
contact.
friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the people that I've known forever. I don't really, God, I don't think I've ever gamed with someone who wasn't a K through 12 friend. That's not true. One of my friends from Miami, Ohio, I played some League of Legends with for a period of time. But other than that, truly, I don't really game with outside groups of friends. And it's not like a conscious decision. That's just not how my friends and I all became friends and we stayed friends because of gaming. You know, we would get home
Hmm.
from school, that's what we would do. Whereas the other groups of people that I'm friends with now, we became friends through other avenues. And so yeah, I think that, I mean, to be fair, I do spend a lot of time like by myself. Like I mentioned, am an extrovert and I love being by myself. Um, but when I am with people, the in-person people, the in-person group of people is always going to be either from school or work or some mix of the two, you know, where we're going out and we're hanging out with people. And I've been really, especially at the firm I'm at, I've been very conscious. I've been very deliberate and like I walk around, I spend 30 minutes of my morning once it hits like 9:30 because most people get in around 9 to walk to every summer associate's office and like say good morning, check in, hey, how are you doing? Say hi. I hate doing it. Um, I hate it because I hate, especially when there's people that you feel like, oh, this person doesn't like me or like this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I've always been the type of person where if I'm gonna make a friend, there has to be like an opportunity to talk to them
Hmm.
because I can't seem like I'm like being weird, like if they don't want to talk to me. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
need there to be like, oh, we're talking because we both got assigned the same project, or we're talking because we're sitting next to each other for this event, or whatever. I
I
couldn't
ac-
make a situation happen, and so in that sense, you know, I think um, that's one aspect of like of the way you operate that I really respect and I wish I was more like that, but it does not come naturally to me at all to sort of like pull in people and try to like form those things. And so that was one of the things I wanted to try when I was at this place because it's, you know, sort of an opportunity when you start a new job to not reinvent yourself, but definitely, you know, sort of hone in a perception you want people to have of you and maybe focus in on some of the better aspects of yourself. And so I was really deliberate, like I want to be um, a little more conscious in forging and sustaining relationships. And it doesn't take much, is what I've really learned. You know, in the past couple of
yeah.
weeks, like I feel like I've been able to anyone in my class of summers is 14 people. And at the very start, I genuinely don't think I could have sat one on one and talked with any of them. But at this point, I
Hmm.
think I could talk with any of them, you know? And that's kind of what I meant earlier when I was saying that I feel like everyone's just a person. I used to always
Hmm.
view people as like, oh, like they're this type of person. They're more interested in that. We wouldn't get along. We wouldn't whatever. But like everyone wants to have connections. Everyone wants to feel like
Yeah.
they fit in. And even the people that um, look like or appear like they fit in, you know, like you even mentioned to me that you think that if you asked people who know me, they would think I was like a crazy extrovert who has a really easy time like, you know, making friends and being charismatic and whatever. Um, but that's not the case at all. And I think that I've just realized that like, while yes, everyone is different, everyone's special, like I'm not special in that sense. No one's special in that sense. Everyone wants to have a community. Everyone wants
Uh-huh.
to feel accepted. Everyone wants to feel like they are known and seen and heard. And yeah, that has been like I know I'm going off on a tangent now when your question is about like,
Well,
hey, who do you
yeah,
hang
no,
out with? But
I wanna add in, I think that it's been such a strong tool for me
Mhm.
also, and something that I didn't realize right away because in high school I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of agency in who my friends were. It was just kind of people I was doing similar stuff with. Oh, you're in music, so you're friends with the other music
Sure,
kids,
sure, sure.
right? And when I went to college, I was so much more intentional with it. My degree class was 100 kids from all over the world in a basement.
Mhm.
And every day we'd all be up late at night and I'd go and check in with everybody. And it was something that like, I mean, I probably didn't feel as uncomfortable with it as you did, but there was definitely like, I felt intimidated,
Sure.
walking up to people and suddenly later on in college, someone told me that they thought that I was really popular and I really knew a lot of people. And I was
Mhm.
like, what? I'm only friends with like a couple people here. I mean, but I did know everyone because I made an effort to go and introduce myself and check in and try and be friendly with everyone. I think it's powerful. It really helps you to enmesh yourself within a culture pretty quickly and to feel like you fit in somewhere that initially you don't. um, yeah, it's something that I try to be very intentional about. I think it's a really powerful tool that's not intuitive. You don't realize how important that, like, hey, what's your name?
Mhm.
How's it
Mhm.
going? Those little things
Mhm.
really do add up and multiply in order to build out a very vibrant and healthy social environment for you to be in. And
Yeah,
that's
and
perfect because I was going to ask you about
Mhm.
networking.
Okay. Oh,
And
yeah.
so we've already gotten a little sense
Oh
of what it's
hell.
like for you in work. Any advice that you have for people who find it intimidating? What are you doing? I personally find it to be a nightmare.
Mhm.
I have all of these people that I know, all these people I respect. I'm pretty good at like establishing a nice, strong relationship with someone. But the second that we stop having a reason to be in each other's lives, the relationship, it's not any lesser, but you're just not like, I'm not great at being, hey, just checking in, how's it going, with
Sure.
so many different people. I
Sure.
find it harder and harder and harder to keep in touch with people as their lives split apart and they
Mhm.
diverge in different paths. My friends who've moved across the country, around the world, I mean, unless you're being intentional about it, you stop talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am not, I would not say that I am like really good at many things.
Yeah.
However, purely based on out of necessity, I have forced myself to become really good at networking. I can't stand it. I hate talking to people. I hate walking up to people and just starting a conversation, but that is, I'll say, 60% of what you do in the legal field, which is crazy. But it's all,
Yeah, it's
talking
important.
to people. It's being social. And yeah, and I mean, in terms of networking, I think the biggest thing for me is realizing that the little tip and trick that I have with that is to just reverse the roles and think, okay, what would I need from this person for me to still be excited to hear from them, for me to still feel like I
Mm.
am relevant in their life. So, for example, one of my TAs from one of my classes in the very first semester of law school was super helpful to me. Talked a lot, just sort of getting used to law school. And what she said is that because she worked at a firm the previous summer. She's a grade ahead of me, and one of the pieces of advice that she said was, there was this student who came to a networking event that she was at and was talking to her about, her experience working there for the summer and returning the following summer and whatnot. And he added her on LinkedIn. I can talk for hours about how much I hate LinkedIn, but unfortunately, it's just the nature of the professional world right now. But uh,
Not You're not a fan of social media making its
no,
way into the professional
I'm
world.
not a fan of social
No.
media, man. Like
Yeah.
I again could talk for hours about how social media has personally made my life worse and the lives of most of the people I care about. And I don't really know anyone who. I mean, listen, sometimes it's not that deep. Like a Snapchat account, it's like you're just keeping up with your friends. It's really not that
Yeah.
deep. But I think especially when I was younger, it felt like way more important than it actually was. And I think that I know people and I have people that I really care about who how they're perceived is really important to them. And not to say that the perception people have of you isn't important and you shouldn't care about it, but I just mean to the point where um, where I feel like it's almost like harmful to their like mental health or whatever, and sometimes
Yeah.
physical health, but it's neither here nor there. Point being, my TA was saying that this student had added her on LinkedIn, and he just literally checked in with her once in the semester just to say, hey, just wanted to check in. I know that you were, working on XYZ. It was really cool to discuss that with you, and I was curious how that was going. And she said that alone, that one message in, half of the school year, that was it. One time was enough for her to have in her head like, hey, this is someone that I would want to work with, you know? Because
Wow.
they're
What a
not
big impact.
exactly. And that's the thing is that like when there isn't a reason to interact, that doesn't mean force reasons. It doesn't mean, you don't have to talk every day because you're right, there isn't a reason to interact with them. But if roles were reversed, what would it take for you to feel like, okay, this person may not have a reason to interact with me, but they're still a cool person. They're someone that I would like to be around. There's someone that I would like to talk to. There's someone that I would like to stay connected with. Yeah, to me, in terms of maintaining a network, that is not a daily task. That is something that, you deal with the people you need to deal with in your day-to-day life, the people that you work with, your close friends, your family, and the professional connections, the people that you would like to be closer friends with, or the people that you would like to work with, or that you just enjoy their company or feel like they have a lot to say that you could learn from. I mean, that doesn't take as much to maintain, you know?
Hmm.
It's just checking
But
in. I
when do
Yeah,
you maintain it? Otherwise, the plant that you're sure has enough water to
sure.
last out the season, all of a sudden, time goes a lot faster than you think it does. How do you
Sure. I
keep
mean,
that from slipping away?
I mean, if you want someone to feel like you care about them, I think the first step is to actually care about them. Don't network with people you don't give a shit about. It's really easy to, oh, I'll talk to this person, this person, this person. Oh, look how big my network has gotten, and I know so many people, but it's like you don't actually care. There is truly no rhyme or reason to it. If you genuinely care about the people, then even if you get busy, eventually it's going to be there. For example, there are people from like high school that we both know that coming out of school I did not really like talk to as much because we weren't in school together anymore. There wasn't a reason. We go to different colleges, we're doing different things, and that period was done.
Yeah,
But they'd still pop up in my head every once in a while. I wonder how they're doing. That's a
and did
great
you reach out?
opportunity to text and say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And here's the thing: if there's someone that you aren't thinking about, then it probably isn't that big a deal. Because even people that, like, let's say there's someone who's a big important owner or executive of some big company or organization you'd like to be at, right? And you're trying to figure out like, how do I maintain, like, I was able to like connect with them, they know of me, how do I sort of just maintain this? Great, you're thinking about them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, you're not going to find yourself in a situation where, oh crap, it's been a year and I never reached out. And if that happens, well, then you didn't really care. And it could not, I swear, could not have been that important.
it's a really interesting stance on it.
I mean, I think that that is the stance that I have developed, and also I'm being forced to go to a lot of how to network events,
Hmm.
and that
So
seems
that's the
to be
advice that you're
the
getting.
yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, yeah. The advice is, be intentional about it. It doesn't hurt anything to just send out a little bit of, hey, how are you doing? But also even a professional context. Like for example, one of the sessions I was just in this past week, she was discussing about one of the connections she made with someone in her own organization. She said she was like, I had been working there for like a year. I had never like met this person, and I wanted to, but after a while it felt like, oh my God, I've already been here a year. Like I can't just go and be like, you know what I mean? Like there was already that kind of like weirdness.
Yeah.
But she was saying that like she actually had two different examples. The first was she sent out an email to one of these people, and she was like, um, "Hey, it's insane. It's crazy that I've been working here for about a year, and I have never touched base with you. And I would love to grab coffee or lunch and just sort of get to know you. Because in that case, you're a coworker. You're at the same organization. There is
Yeah,
a
having the
reason to care.
courage.
Yeah, I mean, courage is a big
Hmm.
part of it. It's not easy. That's what I mean about forcing yourself in some context to be. You can still be an introvert, but you have to still got to talk to people.
Yeah.
And but no, and then the other instance was a situation where they were put on a project together. They finished the project, and the way she went about, because she said that that relationship felt very professional, and she wanted it to be a relationship where, okay, yes, we're coworkers, but also like she wanted to be friends with this person. And so what she did is at the end of the project, when they were saying like, okay, it's submitted, whatever, she sent out an email saying like to this person saying, yeah, that was a great project. I really enjoyed working on it with you. Let's grab lunch sometime to keep in touch. And the other person responded back right away. Yeah, it'd be great. Like that's what I'm saying is that like people are only scary because you don't know what they're thinking, not because they're actually uh some people are, but most normal people, all normal people, which is most people, um, aren't malicious and they want connection. And it doesn't hurt because the worst thing that's gonna happen is they're gonna try to be nice and they're gonna say, oh, I'm busy or what. You know what I'm saying? The same thing you would do. Just flip the script.
Yeah.
Just literally flip the script. And if you find yourself anxious and worrying about it, that's a great opportunity to reach out And if you find yourself not thinking about it at all, well, then great, because then you don't care.
I think that's very insightful, very important to talk about. Speaking of important, I want to know what impact has this journey you've been on to become a lawyer, how's that impacted your relationships in your life, your family, your partner, your friends? Like, how have you had to be intentional in order to accommodate them? Because I know that you're under a lot of stress, you're under a lot of time commitment. I would love to hear, like, has it been something that's really been a trial on the relationships in your life? And what cheat codes have you found to mitigate?
Yes, yes, it is a trial.
Yeah.
I mean, even like there's been months where I'm just like AWOL, and like we check in, I'm like, no, I'm still working. I'm just I'm just swamped. Like,
Yeah.
um, and but I think even that communication's important. You knew that I was never just like I wasn't just like ghosting to ghost. I wasn't just like chilling at home, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna talk to you. Like, no, I was clear going into this portion of my life with the people that I care about, my friends, my family, my girlfriend, that like it's important to me to work hard, and I wanted to work hard, and because of that, there was going to be a time difference. I wouldn't have time the way I did before. And the good thing about my loved ones is that they are understanding, and they want what's best for me, and
Yeah.
and I'm very lucky in that sense. And so, uh, while it has certainly been an adjustment, especially on my relationship, like it's just conscious decisions to, make time and to try. Like even between you and I, like um there were times where I was in the middle of a semester and I'd be like, "Hey man, do you want to like go just like get dinner or something?" Now, like I don't know. I just think that it's really important for me to be able to be communicative with my loved ones, and I think that in that sense, being able to have that knowledge out in the open, like, hey, I'm going to be very busy, and this is not forever, you know. I think that's been the biggest, I mean, tip and trick for me. Yeah, I don't know. Is that luck? Is that like me
I
being
think a
lucky with
lot of
people
it
that are around
is
me? Like, I don't know.
communication, to
Yeah.
be honest, because I think for sure in our relationship we had points where I was like, hey, I feel like I'm almost being ignored. What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
And we sat down and talked about it. And all of a sudden, I mean, I went from feeling a little, I don't think I ever blamed you or was mad at you, but
Sure.
I was a little confused. I was like,
Sure.
hey, I haven't heard from you in so long. What's
Hmm.
going on? I mean, it was only a couple months, but when we were talking so frequently, and then to be able to sit down and I think both of us have a pretty good grasp on like trying to be communicative with the people we care about and really be clear and intentional. And I mean, it helped. We didn't have that problem anymore, and I think that that's been something you've been employing with everyone in your life. It seems really important to be clear and honest with yourself and with others about what you're able to provide at that time and what their expectations should be from
Yeah.
you. Because
Yeah.
then you're not falling short. You're just being honest. Because it's
I
not that
agree.
you're underperforming. It's that this is what I can do.
You're right.
And then all of a sudden, people aren't hurt by a little less of you because they get what you're going through.
You're absolutely right. And I think if I had to sort of like be able to condense, I guess, I get my sort of answer to everything, it has been how important communication is. Um, I think that is something that I'm really working on. I've been really bad at it, and I'll be honest, I have like people that I did care about, but I was such a bad communicator that I'm like I don't talk to them at all anymore. Even when I've tried to retroactively go back and try to reestablish that relationship. And that happens. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate. It sucks, and it's not the greatest thing ever, but that happens. Especially when you're trying to learn to be better at it. And I think every aspect of my life has been improved by getting better at communicating. And I don't mean to sound like I mean throughout this entire conversation, I don't mean to sound like I've like cracked the code because I there's still a lot of times. Just this last week, I was having a conversation with my relatives about communication and my lack thereof in our relationship. And
Yeah, those are fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, the fact that they are having that conversation, the same reason the fact that you had that conversation with me is, I mean, people care, you know? It's never a bad thing for someone to be like, "Hey, I would like to talk to you more," you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so I think for me that was at least for where I'm at now, one of the most important things was just accepting that um, I needed to do some things better, and communication is the biggest one of those.
For where you're at right now, I want to talk a little bit about your health bar. Where's your HP at right now? If you said out of 100, that was your max health, taking into account your mental, your physical, everything going on, your spiritual, like how is Michael doing in 2025? What's your health at?
Um, I mean, dude, it varies. I had a real tough stretch of it this past sort of month. I had
Yeah.
my finals, and then I had to take my last final, and then go hop on a plane to fly out to the um for like an event for the organization I'm working with for like a week of orientation,
Yeah.
and then you start working, and then I came back. I literally last night, I went to a concert, and that was the first time in it had been 3 weeks that other than like going to sleep that I wasn't wearing a full suit. You know? Yeah, yeah, that can wear on you. Um, and don't get me wrong, I like wearing a suit, but when you have to for 3 weeks straight,
Living in a suit,
yeah,
maybe a different
yeah,
story.
exactly, exactly. And so that definitely, I took some hits there, a couple crits, and it's certainly on the mental side. And then if I break it down further on the spiritual and physical side, when you're busy all the time, it's really easy to let that stuff fall by the wayside. You know, it's hard to maintain those things.
Yeah, but
And
I know you, and you have some pretty good habits, right, that have been seeing you
yeah,
through these challenges.
yeah. I mean, I think the only reason I would be able to see through those challenges, look, the where I'm at now in life, in my career, I mentioned earlier, I don't think I'm naturally good at anything. I only got to them by working hard. And so if I didn't have habits in place that allowed me to work hard, I would have crashed and burned years ago. Um, and so in that sense, yeah, like I feel like I religiously have a very, good relationship there. And I do pray. You mentioned earlier that that's sort of one of the ways that you sort of get your head on straight and sort of get that moment to yourself and have that spiritual time. And I think that's important, not necessarily any one religion, but just taking time to check in on your spirit. And so that I think, yeah, that definitely helps. That's probably adding a bit to my overall HP, but and I'll be honest, having a partner, specifically who is supportive, I'll be honest, there's been times in law school, I don't think I've talked to you about this, but where I was like, genuinely, man, like, this might not be for me. Um,
Wow.
just the amount of time and stress and, it's sometimes anything that is difficult, anything that is hard, it fucking sucks, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so there's been plenty of times where I've like confided to her like, yo, like I'm not going to, but I am seriously contemplating like quitting, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and having a partner who can sort of check you when you have those moments, not check you in like a harsh way, but just be realistic with you and say like, look, you've had a hard day, month, week, you know, this is not how you will feel at the macro level. It's how you're feeling right now. And while that is valid and we can deal with that, um, completely dropping it is not the way to do that, And so I have to say having that in my life is also really important. And
I'm sure just having somewhere to get that out, get it off your
yeah,
chest, externalize it so it's not
yeah,
eating at you
yeah,
was
and
big, right?
yeah, and I've had the same therapist since high school. And having that relationship, he knows I don't have to like explain like who this person is or, when the X thing happened in my past or whatever, like he's already aware of all that. And so being able to vent and sort of talk about stuff in that sense. I don't go as much as I used to, but maybe once every 2 or 3 months I go just to have a check-in, and then if something serious is happening where I'm having one of those moments where I feel like, man, I cannot do this, then maybe it's more frequent.
Yeah,
Um,
but you have that
but
structure in place.
but yeah, that sort of safety net is there, and that's I think maybe a good way to think about it is that my family, my friends, and then of course if things get like to the extreme where it's like break in case of emergency, my family in terms of like my mom and my grandparents are like, because at the end of the day, like my girlfriend and them are the most important thing to me. And so being able to like I said, I usually don't talk to them about stuff. I'm not the type of person who like, I know some people are super close with their parents or whatever and they like tell them everything and that's their best friend. Like I'm close with my family, but we're family, not necessarily like best friend where I'm, oh, you know what happened today and oh, there's this or that. Uh, but knowing that if something was seriously getting me down and I was seriously like, man, I don't know, having that I think is also, I have layers of safety nets, I think. Yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah.
word to use.
But if you were to
Um,
give me a number out of 100,
Let me think.
I would say while you're thinking,
Oh,
mine is probably sitting in the mid 60s.
well,
Right?
yeah,
I'm gonna
I
say
was I
probably like
was
65.
gonna ask, why don't you walk me through like, I think that'll help me get to a number. Like, how did you come to that in terms of your breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, I think in any, point rating scale, I tend to take the middle as true neutral, right?
Uh-huh.
Like anything below that, there's something bad. And I think I'm
Mhm.
definitely on the good side.
Mhm.
I think that I've been going through a little period of like physical health, just have been can't catch a break with these allergies
Uh-huh.
and some sicknesses coming my way. But overall, I don't have anything very serious going on. I think that my mental's in a good place. There's room for growth, but I've definitely been in darker valleys, right? Like right now, my head's above water, and I feel pretty fulfilled and satisfied and at peace right now. I think that I have some pretty large aspirations of where I want my life to go. There's still quite a few puzzle pieces that I haven't acquired for the dream life that I would have. I definitely don't have the dream work life or the relationship that I would love to have. I don't have children yet. So I think that mine is more of a holistic, like long term. I think my max health,
Mhm.
uh, I could always get healthier physically. I could
Right.
my mindset has a lot of room to continue growing, and there's some more pieces I want to fill in my life of things that I think will be fulfilling and like good for me. So I think that things are positive, but there's still a lot of room to heal and grow. And yeah, how
And
about
how do
you?
you sort of weigh those different aspects of your life to be able to, say like, okay, holistically, I feel like I'm here. Like how do you think about that in like your daily life, or is that something that you're like, when I really break it down and I try to like contextualize my spiritual, my physical, my mental, and all those other things, like, is
Yeah,
that just a number that feels right?
I think I take into account the worst place I've ever been for each of them.
Oh,
I've had some
sure,
really deep valleys for my physical health. I've been on the brink of death before in my life, and I'm not there. I'm pretty damn far from there.
sure.
I've been in some dark spots mentally. I've been pretty lost spiritually before, and I think that comparing that to where I imagine, like where I'm trying to get to, what I think I
I
have the
see.
capacity for,
Yeah, I
is
see.
kind of where I'm weighing, where am I on that journey? Am I still real? Do I have so much to go? I'm still, by comparison, pretty close to my worst? No way. I think that I'm definitely on the path and like making progress towards that like perfect health that I feel I have the ability to achieve, or like is my main capacity.
Well,
But I don't think there's any one right way to answer the question. This is just the way that I interpret it.
yeah, no, but I think if I think about it that way, I would say probably around maybe a 57. And that's not because I think I'm necessarily not doing well.
Hmm.
It's because I think that
You're
I
a
have,
dreamer.
yeah, I think I have a high capacity. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that, the vision of what I hope I'm on the path of eventually getting to, is compared to where I'm at now. I think the happiness level would be just so, so, so different. Um, and I am happy now, but I just think that the things that I'm aspiring to will be even greener pastures. And I don't mean that in a the grass is always greener on the other side sort of way. I mean that in
Hmm.
a, my zero, worst I've ever been in my life. That scale goes pretty far.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you
I,
know that in equal
yeah,
measure, it could go up that same amount.
exactly, because
Yeah.
I feel like I've already traveled quite a far distance,
Hmm.
from those low points, because those low points were, uh, pretty damn low.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm happy and comfortable with a strong 57, possibly a low 58.
All right. Now, in a very similar way, I know
Hmm.
I'm getting you to throw numbers out. I
Yeah.
apologize if
That's
it's
why I went into law, dude. No
too
numbers, no
candid.
math.
No numbers, no math. Oh no, what's this guy doing to me? If we were to talk about life satisfaction, I'm framing it so you could start thinking in your number now,
Hmm.
out of 100, same sort of
Hmm.
thing. But I
Hmm.
would love to hear, in your view, what are the criteria of a happy life? At this moment in time right now where you're at in your life, what do you think these are the things that I think are essential to have a happy life?
Um, I think, okay. Yeah, I mean that answer is definitely so different based on what stage of life I've been in. Right now I think, um there's been times in my life where one of the criteria would be not having to work and being able to relax. And I think right now I'm in a stage where I want to be paying my dues. I want to know that I like worked hard in my youth and started at the very
Interesting.
bottom of it all, and so I get a bit of happiness in knowing that I worked really hard.
Yeah.
Now, if the firm I was at heard me say what I'm about to say, they would be like, "What the hell are you doing? Like that is so stupid." But like I worked, I think it was 56, 60 hours last week. I had a couple of like 10 to 12-hour days of just like straight work. I didn't take a lunch, like straight work.
Oh, I've been there.
And but you see, my company doesn't want you to do that because, like I said, a lot of those people are in a culture of like, hey, other things matter and other things are important, and so I think that's what I mean when I say the stage I'm at right now, though, is I want to know that I worked hard because I'm in a place now where I can come home, talk briefly with my partner, go to sleep, wake up at 3 in the morning, and I'm young enough that I can like physically handle that. Um, and I know that I won't always be able to. And so at that stage in my life, I think it'll be really important that for my happiness that I have a balance and that I'm able to go home and that I'm not working uh, that long, grueling hours.
Yeah.
So right now, to answer your question, I think that having the opportunity to work hard, I think is something that is really important to me. That's a big part of my satisfaction. I think having the ability to, on the other side of that coin, spend time with my loved ones while working hard, I think is really important. But I think the most important gauge for my satisfaction, and this is throughout any point in my life, the other things are sort of ancillary to that. Um, the biggest thing to me is my family being proud of what I'm doing, my friends being proud of what I'm doing. I don't, I would hate for someone to be like, at least when they're thinking about me, to be like, yeah, like he doesn't really like care, he's just kind of he doesn't give a shit, you know.
Yeah.
I think that would be the worst thing, and I think that would make me miserable if the people that I cared about thought that of me. And so having the opportunity to be able to be productive, and I don't just mean working, I just mean even like showing up for my friends and family too,
Yeah.
like I there was a break of time where I graduated from undergrad before I decided to go to law school, and I wasn't really doing anything, but I was still like, I wasn't my point is I wasn't just like, I could have, because I had truly nothing to do, just been home and like gamed and not spoken to anyone and completely
Yeah.
dropped off the radar and done nothing. But wanted to spend time with people. I wanted to see the people I cared about. I wanted to be there for them. I said at the very start of this conversation, that's like the most important thing to me is being able to be there for the people I care about.
Huh?
And part of the way that I'm there for them is them not necessarily having to worry about me. Me being good allows them to have a safe place to not worry. There's people in my life, friends, family, who worry about everyone, and they have to. So many other people put so much stress on them.
Yeah.
And so being able to be a person to them where they don't have to worry about like, oh, am I putting too much on him? Am I stressing him out? He's got other stuff to do. Like, no, they feel like I'm good, then they can be happy at least when they're with me. They can be comfortable at least when they're with me. And so me being good is almost a necessity for my caring about them. You know what I
Huh.
mean? And so to my happiness, I think doing work that makes them proud and happy and know and them knowing that I'm doing good. Um, yeah, that's the biggest thing to my happiness, I think. And so to give you a number in terms of my satisfaction currently based on those factors, probably an 83, I'd say. It's up there. I'm
Wow.
happy.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm happy.
I'm glad to hear that, man.
Where do you land on that scale? I'm not letting you get away without giving a number after I have to throw one out.
Yeah. I'd say I'll start with the criteria of a happy
Uh-huh.
life for me. I think I had that motivation structure throughout school. It was very much so like I was driven by wanting to make the people that were important to me proud and to make myself proud to like know that I was capable of living up to my potential. Like people tell you that you're smart, and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? How do I actually like become that person? Just because I have the capacity to be smart, like it doesn't mean anything to be smart in like second grade.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
actually like use that and live up to it? So that used to be a really like main central part of my psyche and something I thought about constantly. It was part of why I felt so empty when I left school because I felt like I proved it to myself and to everyone else in such a way that I didn't need to prove it anymore. I felt satisfied with that. And then I started looking for like a different drive, honestly. Um, and nowadays it's shifted a lot to more being true to myself. I think that's why I'm talking so much about personal development and growth right now,
Mhm.
focusing in on hearing other people's stories and hearing their paths and figuring out the path I want to be on and how to be very authentic to myself and to not feel like I'm forcing myself to take a path that I don't want to be on or isn't
Yeah.
right for me. So
Yeah.
I think that's important, but like criteria for a happy life, I really think that the people that I love need to be safe. I'm somebody in a different way of like taking care of. I need to know like, my pets, my family, my friends, everybody is doing well. If there's anything that I can be doing to help them like through something, I want to be there. That's something that like I find it fulfilling. I think that feeling fulfilled is super important for me to be happy. So that's through my relationships, feeling useful, feeling like I'm there and I'm doing everything I can for the people I love, and not taking for granted anyone that I care about or the time that I have. I think that's super important to me. I also think that that same thing, feeling fulfilled in the work that I'm doing,
Yeah.
in the roles that I'm filling, in the social groups that I'm in my community, in the social circles I run in. Like I wanna feel like I'm being authentic and that what I'm doing is fulfilling. So that's huge.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
I think that really brings me satisfaction, and I need to be creating something. I mean, I'm working on the podcast, I'm writing a book. I got like a million little projects going,
Yeah.
and that's something that like really, if you told me I couldn't make anything, it would drive me insane. I would feel
Yeah.
so like not satisfied with my life because my brain never shuts the fuck up. I can't sleep. I have such a hard time sleeping because I'm always just like simulating situations and running through thoughts. So for me, I definitely need to be making something that brings me a lot of peace knowing that I'm at least on in the right direction,
Yeah.
designing and making things. Um, so yeah, I think that those two, as long as my relationships are good, everyone's doing well, and I'm feeling fulfilled and creating stuff, I'm satisfied. And I think right now my life is hitting all of those. I would agree. I'm at like 90%. I think that there's room. I could always be more satisfied. So I'll leave that
Sure.
last 10%. But I think 90 out of 100, I'm very satisfied with life right now. Um, yeah, I think that there's a lot that I still want to do. But I think I've been very mindful in recent times because I think I had a lot of the same like things making up my life
Mhm.
for a while now. In this whole period, entering the working world and after college, but I was very unsatisfied with my life, and I think it's because those areas were suffering. I didn't feel like I was
Mm-hmm.
doing enough in my relationships. I didn't feel like I was creating anything. I didn't feel like I was being useful to people. It's just like it was a lot of my own perception, and also I've been putting a lot of active work into trying to raise that, you know.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
think so. I think that is that. I mean, God, I mean, putting in that work is. We were talking about this a bit earlier, in terms of like where you're placing importance on things um, is how you start to sort of develop your own sense of self and your own sense of what makes you happy is the things that you do put time towards.
yeah,
So I definitely understand, and I think that first of all, I mean, I'm happy that yours is, hey, we take those. 90, we take that.
for real.
Like that makes me happy to hear. But I definitely get what you mean when you say about just putting in effort, you know?
Yeah. It's weird to think you think that satisfaction is something that is like a result only. It's something that you go out and get, but so much of it also is how you choose to feel about things.
Hmm. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you can make your life a prison even if you live a beautiful life, if you choose to look at it in a bad way.
I remember in high school. This is another example of not understanding things until later.
Hmm.
I was talking with a therapist, and this is a different therapist than the one I even had at that time. It was just a
Huh?
different situation, and he said to me like, you ever just tried like being happy? And that became like a running joke of, we would say like, oh, why don't you just try being happy? Like whenever anything bad happened, whatever. For years, and it
Yeah.
wasn't until much later that there is some aspect some things are horrible, some things are terrible, but when you can control your reaction to something, and maybe you are the one putting the importance on it being so horrible, sometimes it is a choice to not necessarily be happy, but to let go of being upset.
Yeah.
It's addictive. Feeling bad can feel good.
Mm.
A lot of the music when I was sad, I would listen to these songs that were so like
Oh yeah.
emotional and sad, and it would give me this like catharsis and this like release of whatever. And it's a habit I had to break. It's easy to, even when you talk about like, listen, I'm not a not a brain surgeon, I'm not a neurosurgeon, but I remember learning when we were like in elementary school about like the synaptic connections in your head and how when you think a certain way or you connect certain things in your brain, the pathway between those ideas, um, it's like walking over grass. It gets trampled down. It gets easier to traverse. And because electrical systems like the path of least resistance, when you think about things in relation, often it becomes easier to think about those things in relation to each other. So when you are allowing yourself, and this was just my personal experience, when I was allowing myself to feel sad about certain things or to ruminate and overthink and go down these rabbit holes and spiral about certain ideas or be with certain people and listen to a certain kind of music and talk about certain things, like that became then easier for me to do even outside of those situations because it
Yeah.
started to connect to more things in my brain and it became just it's the path of least resistance. And being very conscious, this is actually one place where I have put in a lot of work emotionally.
Hmm.
was being conscious to reverse some of that. I don't want to call it damage, but some of those maybe poor choices, uneducated decisions I made to talk with people in certain ways and treat myself in certain situations and allow myself to behave in certain situations, it becomes easier to do those things again and again and again and again. And so being very conscious to choose not necessarily happiness, but to choose to not be sad was a big turning point for me. And it's easy to forget that, man. I was so conscious about it. It was such a massive thing for me in undergrad. And there was a point during this past year where I had to like remind myself of that. I had to remind myself like, hey, dude, um, even if you say things as a joke, like your subconscious is not differentiating, you know?
Oh yeah.
You have
No,
to, you
I
have,
know we come from like such a culture, I think just in where we grew up, it was
Mm.
so commonplace to put yourself down,
Yeah,
to make a joke. And it was something that, yeah, I struggled with to break out of. Yeah, I realized how unhealthy for me it was to
absolutely.
constantly be making myself the bit, the end
hmm
of the joke, the
hmm
butt of the joke, you know?
Yeah, no, and look, there's a healthy way to do it, but you just need to be conscious of it, and you need to be very deliberate with it. It needs to be Look, I don't mean to sound like it's crazy, but for me, at least in my life, it has been really like I could not understate how important that like you gotta be aware of that kind of stuff, because in the times that I haven't been, um, especially for some of the people around me, things got bad, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's and with time, that sort of you forget how bad it was. And you have to sort of remind yourself like, no, I things are better now because I made those changes.
Yeah. It's not a one and done. It's something you
Right.
have to keep coming back to and
Yeah, and that's
checking in
something I'm
on.
still working on.
Yeah. I think me too. It's
Yeah,
important.
absolutely.
I'd like to ask you, you think you're doing anything at right now specifically to improve your satisfaction in life? What's motivating you to become even more satisfied? I know that you're already doing pretty good, but is there anything that you're improving actively?
I mean, I always want to. I think I mentioned this earlier. I like challenges. I like to be challenged. I like working hard on things.
Yeah,
And so being able to sort of improve my capabilities, I've genuinely feel like I've learned more in the past 3 weeks, um, at my firm, and hopefully I'll keep learning more for the many more weeks that I'll be there over the summer. But um, I feel like I've learned more in that period than I did through like all of my first year of law school. And that's not an issue with law school. Like, look, law school prepares you to take the bar exam. Um, that's really what it does. It prepares you for that. Real life prepares you for everything else. And so working at this firm has given me so much in terms of I've never had to like tell people to do stuff,
yeah,
And like now there's certain projects where I have to send, I'm working on something and then I send it to a different department to do work on it and I have to specify like I need you to do X, Y, and Z and I need it back by this time and you know what I mean? And then they come back and they have questions or it's not in the form that I need or it's not what I was hoping or the quality isn't what I was expecting and I have to go back to them and say, hey, look, I need you to make XYZ change and I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm not trying to be a dick, but I need this or that. And so having that experience has been huge for me. It's something I haven't done before. Having the experience of having to have like real professional, cordial relationships with people. I've always been a very casual person, you know. My personal connections are my personal connections, and even if you had friends at school or work, I mentioned before for undergrad it was performing arts management. The music industry is very casual compared to the legal, and that's been a big change. And so I think what I'm working on is just getting better at existing in this environment. I think that being able to have the opportunity to work hard on stuff, um, both personally and professionally and interpersonally, it's making me happy to feel that purpose. Yeah, I mean, just makes me curious, like, how are you feeling in life right now, and with sort of like processing through your level of happiness, and I know that you have, we're similar in the sense of like having aspirations and having these like sort of big goals on both a macro and micro level. So I'm curious, where are you at with um, improving that sort of number for yourself?
Yeah, I think that it's really been just trying to do everything I can to make sure that I'm staying on track.
Hmm.
I think that job searching these days, especially in 2025, it's been so turbulent. It's really easy to feel down when things don't work out right away, especially if you are someone who has some good qualifications. It's like, come on, where's the success that I've been working towards? Where's the
Sure,
payoff?
sure. Yeah,
So I'm just trying to stay positive, really, with that and give myself grace and trust that taking the time to seek out something that aligns with me will be worth it. Um, yeah, I think it's a lot of making sure that I'm making incremental and steady steps towards the goals that I have in life. Launching this
hmm
podcast,
hmm
you know, undertaking fulfilling projects is really important to me. And just really taking while I have time, like free time on my hands, reinforcing those relationships. I'm trying to make sure that I'm there in every way I possibly can be for the people I
yeah,
care about because, you get busy and I want them to at least be like, oh, well, when he had the time, he was there for
hmm
me. Then people could be a little more understanding if you've
sure,
got a lot going on and all of a sudden you can't show up in the same way that you would. But
sure.
it's important that to me to show up how I want people to perceive me, as someone who's very easily accessible whenever they need me, and really shows up in a real and strong way for them.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to open up the conversation to you now, as I will with every guest who comes on the show. Is there anything that you want to talk about, you want my opinion on, you want to ask me?
Dude, I actually do have something.
What's up?
Okay. As you know, the Nintendo Switch recently was released.
Boy, yeah.
I caught myself, or okay, here I'll give you the rundown. And then there is a portion where I would like your opinion on it.
Okay.
Earlier today, uh, I bought one. I got one. It was not functioning when I turned it on.
Yikes.
Yeah, yeah. And so I called the Nintendo up. I was sitting on the phone with them. I spent most of my day on the phone with them, trying to work it out. And it got to a point I was like getting like so frustrated. And um, I realized that normally I'd be like crazy angry, you know?
Yeah.
But
You spent a lot of money.
yeah, well, yeah, and honestly, dude, like it wasn't even about the money. It was the fact that they were like not being helpful. It was the fact that I had
Oh,
spent any amount of money on a product and it didn't work, and they were like, I don't know, like you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but I didn't find myself really getting like angry. I was frustrated. I was like getting like pissed off, but externally my emotions, I wasn't feeling upset. And so much of that I feel like has come from, I work in a very stressful environment. And I don't just mean like working now, I mean even in like school and whatnot. Like I operate in stress
Yeah.
and it's kind of made me chill out a bit more when I am not required to be stressed. I think having these like deadlines and stuff that are really tight. Like for example, on just this past Friday, dude, I had like two full papers, like the kind of papers that would have been like for any single class the final.
Yeah.
I had two full papers assigned to me on Tuesday, and they're like, "Yeah, we need those by Friday." While I
Oh
was trying to
boy.
put together an entire like, um, basically like a handbook type of thing, um, of like loads of medical policy,
Yeah.
and I needed to get that like deliverable ready and done. you
Hmm.
know um Also for Friday, that was stressful.
Yeah.
That was why I, like I mentioned, worked a lot this week because I had so much stuff to do. And they tell you like, hey, if you're not going to make a deadline, just tell the people or whatever. As a summer, they don't like expect that much out of you in terms of like substantive work, that you're adjusting to
Yeah.
this work life balance and getting things done. But I was like, no, I want to be the type of person that is reliable and I want to get these things done. And I had the ability to work more hours, so I did, and I got them done. But you would not believe this week I was so stressed out all the
Yeah.
time and just like not in a good mood at all. And so it's weird to me that today I notice like I've been pretty Like, I've been kind of chill. It was the same thing happened when I got out of my last semester of classes. I was so stressed out, man. I had like, "Oh, I gotta study for this and study for that, and I have this final on that paper, whatever." And then when I was done, like I remember, I can't remember what it was, but I remember something happened, and I was kind of like, whatever, dude. Like, whatever. Getting to the point where I want your opinion.
Yeah.
How do you feel? It's a twofold question. One, do you feel like I have changed because you've known me so long?
Yeah.
Since having been in this new environment? That's the first part of the question. Second part of the question is, do you feel that working through your architecture degree and then actually working in that field changed you and who you are? And at the very least, how you react to things and how you deal with things.
Oh, yeah. I think for both questions, a really large component of it
Hmm.
is that we've gone on this journey of learning patience the hard way.
Hmm.
And that's by being in environments that are so rushed, that are so demanding, that you start to gain an appreciation for the downtime, for the interstitial, the boring.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the mundane suddenly is not so bad when you've been in these constant, I need to work and work and work. I mean, for me, I remember years of college, like the weekends were busier than the class days.
Yeah.
I'd be working literally 20 hours a day, sleep for 4, get up and work another 20 hours, do
Oh,
that for months.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that led to burnout. We both had our fair share of burnout and had to like recalibrate to figure out how do we approach life where
Hmm.
you're not burning yourself out? How do you measure how much you've got in the tank and use it judiciously? I
Yeah,
think
bro.
that both
I
of
still
us
don't know.
have, oh, but you're getting there. I think I remember when we were younger, I mean, you've always been someone to throw yourself into whatever you're doing. I think we both are. Like we both
Mm-hmm.
commit really hard, and I personally think that it's something I have to be mindful. I wouldn't call it a weakness, but it's so easy to be taken advantage of when you're someone who commits really hard. Because yes, people can rely on you, but all of a sudden they can over rely on you and slack or put too much on you and not be fair to your life and the other things you have going on. Because all of a sudden, oh, he'll get it done. And I think that, have you changed? I think that you've been consistently this guy with a lot of drive, with a lot of intention,
Hmm.
and you've shifted your focus as life has gone on, and you're continuing to find your path and what realigning what matters the most to you. But I think that you've always been someone who has his priorities aligned in the same way that I do, where you put the people and your relationships high up there. And I think that that has remained consistent. I think that you becoming more patient really has helped you in these environments like where things are so stressful, and also when you're dealing with such heavy stuff. Like
Yeah.
for me it was like permits and red tape and the law and
Hmm.
life safety of making sure buildings don't fall down on people.
Yeah.
And for you, I mean, I'm sure that there's tons of stuff to do with law that's stressful and real and
Yeah.
meaty. Like you might
Yeah.
just be a summer, but I'm sure you're dealing with some really
Yeah.
substantial stuff.
I've seen some
So
shit.
when inconvenience strikes you, you now have it's similar to what we were talking about with mental health, right? And
Hmm.
with physical health, where you've been through those really deep valleys,
Yeah.
then the bumps in the road, even if it's like a pretty fucking bad pothole,
Yeah.
it's not a valley.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
that it could be so much worse. You know that your inconvenience could be so much more serious. Like I think that your Switch not working for a couple days, while incredibly frustrating,
Yeah, like
and I'm for one have like really let go of the concept of this isn't fair, because I think a lot of
uh
people get trapped in that, and like all of a sudden you feel like the world owes you and you're being shortchanged. I just have shifted my mind away from just life's not fair. It's kind of it plays out the way it does, and it's up to you to make the most of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, these things that seem so consequential, you can start to get some distance and some perspective. And I mean, I like to think that that is the beginning of the path towards wisdom, right? Is being able to gain perspective on situations and not be so reactionary, but to have your default become a little more accommodating of the whole situation. And as soon as you start viewing life through other people's lens, like the lens of understanding that like someone's not out to screw you. There's nobody at Nintendo that's like, ha ha ha, Michael's gonna
Yeah.
have a bad day.
Yeah.
It's more just like, all right, well, something happened and this sucks, but
I
can we get it fixed? Like, I think a very objective stance is all that you're able to have when your life becomes so serious and stressful.
it's funny
Yeah,
you say that. When I was on the phone, I spoke with three different like operators, whatever. But to each one of them, I literally said, I was like, because I mean, I'm sure they're used to people calling and be like, this is unacceptable. What do you do? Blah blah blah.
yeah,
Like there were multiple times on the call with each of them where I was like, and listen, man, let me be clear, like this is not your problem. Like I fully recognize like this is not your fault. You didn't do anything. Like I'm just trying to figure it out for me, you know? And I think there's
yeah.
something to that where I was just like, like you mentioned, it's not yeah, it's really not about like it's not that serious. I
Because at the end of the day, if you are robbing yourself of your own peace,
right.
you're multiplying the problem. But
Right.
if you are able to maintain your peace while going about solving it, it's just an inconvenience.
Yeah.
It'll get fixed.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good answer. Damn. I
I
do
want to
not.
make sure and ask you
Uh-huh.
about your heroes. People
Okay.
that not just like people you aspire to be, but the people that you find inspirational. The people it doesn't have to be people that you know personally.
Yeah,
It could be
sure.
a mixture of people. But I want to know who has shaped you in a way, like who have you looked up to and who are you aspiring to take on attributes of?
Yeah, one thing about me is that, okay, so in terms of how I've improved at anything, the way I do it is I look at someone that I think is good at the thing that I want to be better at, and I sort of try to learn what their habits are, what it is about them. Like, for example, when we were in music, I found people that I thought were good at it, and then I wanted to learn about their process and how they think about it, what they've done, how they've gotten to where they're at, and so I I don't really have like specific, heroes or people that I look up to, people that I'm inspired by. I mean, obviously, I think that I do respect and admire a lot of the qualities in the people that I'm close with. I think that's why I'm close with them, because I do admire qualities that they have. Um,
Yeah.
and so obviously, I think that at least it's obvious to me. I think that all the people that I would consider calling a friend or slash loved one are people that inspire me, certainly, for
Oh, okay.
plethora of reasons. But in terms of like having a specific person that I look at them and I'm like, man, I want to be that. I don't have that, and part of that just comes from how I guess in a way was raised. I never really had like that sort of like figure to look at and be like, wow, that's like um, and so I think it's always been myself, which has been a really good and a really bad thing for two different reasons. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but the good part of competing against what you feel like your potential is that it's always ahead of you, so you're never satisfied with where you are. And so you always push yourself to be better, and that is also the bad thing about it, is that you are never satisfied with where you're at, and
Yeah.
you're always pushing yourself to be better because you are quite literally competing with someone who does not exist because it's who you think you could be. And that person will always be better than you. At least they should be, you know?
Interesting.
Unless you're like a narcissist or something. Um, I am not. I know because I have quite literally been tested. I am not. But yeah, so to answer your question, man, like I'm inspired by the people that I care about and that I talk to and that I want to be around, and that's why I want to be around them because they give me inspiration in many different ways. But in terms of like who I aspire to be, it's to be a little bit corny. It's me tomorrow, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I think definitely I agree with you in having that same sort of always competing with myself. But I have had a few, I don't know if the right word is role models or heroes, but people that
Yeah.
I've looked up to that I think like, oh, this is an aspect of them that I really admire
Yeah.
and I hope to aspire to.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, who are they?
my father for
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
He is very successful, but has not changed as a person whatsoever from it. And I think that like has been modeled for me so well to not lose yourself, to really like figure out who you are and be honest and like true with it. And he's also so incredibly zen. I've never met another person who can be so unfazed by so much craziness going on in their life.
Sure.
And I mean, I know it weighs on him, but he handles it so well. So I
Uh-huh.
think that like keeping that yourself centered is something that I really admire from him. I think as a creative, quite a few. I think Chris Metzen really stands out, one of the main creative driving forces behind World of Warcraft. You listen to him talk, and he has such passion for what he has done with his life.
Mhm,
And he found a way to build his life around that passion and to just be able to create something so prolific that's touched so many people.
mhm.
I feel the same way about a lot of musical artists. I mean, it'd be hard to name them all, but I think like Baby No Money is someone in our generation who he's just being so authentic. You know, he's truly being himself, and like I think who he is really resonates with me.
Yeah.
A gamer as a musician, you know, and to not be bashful about it, to
Yeah.
find a way to be himself and fit in like major pop culture, I think is so cool. And I think that it really gives me the courage to try and make something that is within this like gaming community, you know, and to contribute to it because I see other people are being successful while truly like not having to disguise who they are. You know, plenty of content creators like that I think have been pretty inspirational to me, among many more. But and then I think as a like trying to become a podcaster, like
Uh-huh.
we're now getting near the end of the first official episode
Yeah.
that we're recording.
Yeah.
I think that Stephen Bartlett and Jay Shetty and Simon Sinek, among many, but those three really I was not someone who listened to podcasts. One of my good friends in college did a lot and turned me on to an architecture one. I listened to it a little bit. It was pretty good. It was interesting, but it didn't feed me the way that the self development podcasts, the self help, self growth, mindfulness, that whole sphere.
Mhm.
I found it at a time where I was in a really deep, dark place and didn't know where to go. I
Yeah.
was feeling very alone. It was like COVID had really messed things up. And it was a place where I felt not just like supported or like heard or anything, but it was like a resource
Yeah.
that I could use to go to and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this problem. Let me hear what other people think about it at least. Like
Mhm.
at a bare minimum, let me get some of it out of my head and work through it by hearing what other people are going through. And that's a lot of my motivation for this show is to try and contribute to that. So, talking a little bit about cheat codes, things on this path and journey of figuring out your place in the world and what aligns with you, where you feel fulfilled, where you feel satisfied, how to build a life
Uh-huh.
that works for you. I'd love to know if you could go back in time and talk to your 17-year-old self. What are three pieces of advice you would give?
17-year-old me was beyond help. He he
Hey,
yeah.
that's my friend you're talking about.
Yeah.
Be nice to him.
Yeah. Nah, nah, he was all right, but god damn. Yeah, okay. I mean, the first thing I think is Never mind. The first thing I really think is I think the patience is a big thing I had to learn. I think that took a long time. He
Mhm.
wouldn't listen to that. What's interesting about this question is not necessarily things I wish I had known or understood. It's things that I think me at 17 would have actually like listened to. Even if it came from a
Okay.
future me, I think at that time I was just very self-assured. Internally, I was a very different person then. And I think externally too. I think I present in a similar way now. I think that I've matured in some senses, but I think that for the most part, dude, I think I've actually changed quite a bit since then. Um, I mean, the first thing I would tell him, I don't know if this is like this is cheating or not, but you know what? You said cheat codes, so I would tell him to find my current partner. You know what I mean? I think um, speeding that process up by at 17, God, by 3 years, 4 years, 4 years. Um, like I said, I think that support system has been like crucial to where I'm at now and crucial to my growth and having someone that made me want to be better
Yeah.
was really important. So I think that that is a big thing. That feels kind of like cheating to be able to say like, hey, find whoever, but like it
Yeah.
just seems a little whatever. Anyway, I would definitely give that advice. Second advice I would give would be to not be so stubborn. Stubbornness is something that I still deal with now, and I wish I had started working on it when I was younger because I think it would have been easier to kick then. Um,
Interesting.
but dude, at 17, mainly I was just angry. I'm not really
You
angry now,
were.
but I was a very, yeah, I was not.
You wouldn't have known it from the
Yeah,
outside.
yeah, no, I was really angry, and I remember I was talking to like I was talking to like the men in my family at that time, and I was
Yeah.
like, do you guys were you guys like angry? Like for example, the penultimate like example of a very just like calm, like you said, like can listen and take in everything and then be decisive or whatever. That's like my grandfather through and through,
Yeah.
sort of like patriarch of the family and whatnot. All my aunts and uncles and whatever. He's like the person that everyone looks to in that sort of sense. And I remember talking about him when he was young, and he was like, yeah, and he was telling me stories about like fights he would get into and just trouble and whatnot, and that is something that if you even me and knowing him my whole life would have never guessed.
Yeah.
And I at 17, man, I was angry, especially when I was away. I don't, like I said, I was a completely different person. I don't talk about it a lot. But like that freshman year of college when I was at my Miami, Ohio, dude, I like I was getting in like fights with people. I don't even know if I told you
Wow.
this.
No.
I was yeah, no, I
Well,
was
maybe
like
one, but
no, I was an angry person. And at the time I wasn't like going around looking for fights, but it was just I had no patience. I was stubborn, like I said. I felt
yeah.
like I was just angry at the world for a lot of things. And so at 17 is really, was it 16 or 17 when it started? I probably, yeah, 17 is when it really started.
So what would you say to that Michael about
Yeah,
his anger? What
yeah.
wisdom would you give him?
No, that's exactly what I mean, is that you have to let go of it.
Yeah.
I maybe it's just a hormonal thing when you're 17, but um I used to get really angry and telling him like, listen, man, uh you will be better off for it by letting go of it. Whether or not I would have listened is a whole other question, but I
What
think
do you
I would
think
be
let you let go of?
a lot of things. I think
You don't have to get too specific, but
no,
just
yeah, yeah,
the
no, I
paths that you
not at all.
took.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
I want to make sure I give like a complete answer. I think part of it is seeing that you don't feel better no matter like how angry you get.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like I don't know, I feel like that's a very common like when people say like, "Oh, like I'm gonna do XYZ or I'm gonna do something that'll be like I'll feel good or whatever," and it's like, "Oh, it doesn't actually help." Yeah, no, it doesn't help. I think we all kind of know deep down, whether or not we consider it or not, the things that make us actually happy and the things that feel good in a moment. Being angry is one of those things that, and this is literally what I would tell to him. Being angry is one of those things that feels good in the moment because it doesn't take any discipline or control to just be angry.
Yeah.
And having discipline is, I think, the biggest difference between if I'm talking to him, I'm gonna tell him straight to his face. Um, Discipline is the difference between the two of us.
Mm.
I was not a disciplined
Wow.
person. Now I, like I said, get up at a very specific time every day. I do what I need to do every day. I speak to people in a certain way. Like, for example, even with my partner, this is something I actually take a lot of pride in. I have not, and hopefully will not ever, raise my voice at her, even if we're arguing. I always keep my voice at this level with her. Not to say I don't raise my voice with other people,
Yeah.
but with her. That's not always easy. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like, oh, it's just so easy to be. No, sometimes we argue
It's
pretty
intentional.
heavily,
Yeah.
but I don't raise my voice at her. I don't yell at her, um, ever. At least I haven't. And so, 17-year-old Michael, he, especially with like romantic partners, he was not a yeller. I've always had that in my head of just like that's not how you should treat someone you care about, but certainly would raise my voice when you get upset about something and you even like talking like this and then you're talking like this and you're just upset, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is very easy to do. And it's a little thing, it's a small thing, but it matters. And it matters to the people that you care about, and it matters to the people that you're talking to.
It really does.
Um and so that's what I mean. Like you just have to have some discipline, especially when it comes to the things that matter. And like I said, even with remembering to um, remain calm and remembering to control the way that I think about things or the jokes that I make because that can affect other things. That's all just choice, and it's not the easy one.
Yeah.
Um, and so making decisions that aren't easy but that will be better in the end for you and those that you care about is kind of the crux of improving.
Well said.
Yeah,
So
that's what I
important.
would say. That's what I would say. And might I add, having known having known you at 17, I mean, what do you think? Where would you go with that answer?
Gosh. Specifically 17-year-old me thinking about, I mean, I entered college at 17.
Hmm.
I would say to him, if I caught him early enough, to really look a little more deeper into the things that you're committing to
Hmm.
and really figure out if that's what you want. I think that I was very, I mean, I was just as lost, if not more, back then. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I changed my answer to what are you going to be probably 6 times
Sure.
in 2 years,
Sure.
right? And they were pretty big swings
Hmm.
of trying to like figure out what path am I on.
Hmm.
And it got to the point that I was just like, all right, there's a school that's near me that's good for this. I think I can get in. It sounds like it'll probably be good. And here's the reasons why. And there were good reasons. I had thought through them, but I didn't really look into what the reality of the life was that when
Hmm.
you get out of school, like what type of job are you going to be doing? What's the day to day? I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have something like this show to go and try and figure out if that was the right path for me. So I would definitely say be more intentional and dive a little deeper into the things that you're committing to. Because when
Hmm.
you commit hard
Yeah.
and you give your heart and your soul. And sometimes you're really giving your heart and your soul.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you're giving that to the right places in life. You're grinding
Hmm.
those right skill bars.
Hmm.
So that would be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is appreciate how healthy you are now and do everything to improve it immediately. Because I had been putting a lot of effort into my health. And then, that freshman 15 is real. You go to college and you're like, oh my God,
Sure.
I'm free. Especially if you have like pretty a regimented life,
Uh,
as a child,
uh,
and it's easy to not have the discipline.
yeah.
I had plenty of discipline when it came to my studies, but the discipline of like keeping up with your health, I think that I would definitely tell myself like it's going to be you're so much closer to your goals in the future
Mm,
right now
hmm.
than if you just like work at it right now.
Hmm.
You'd be so much better off. It'd be so much easier because I thought like, it doesn't even matter. But
Yeah.
it's quite frustrating to look back and be like, come on, knucklehead, you were so
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
um, and I think the third thing, yeah, it would have to be something to do with patience, to some sort of like, I don't know specifically what I would say, but it would have to cover like forgiving yourself, like giving yourself grace
for not being where you want to be yet and having that patience to just enjoy the journey, to really be like, all right, we're young. And like I would tell him, you are young and you don't have to have it figured out yet, and just enjoy the process. There's
Sure.
no true wrong moves. You can respond to situations in a bad way. You can react to them badly, but you're never going to make a move that is so bad that you can't find a way out of it. I mean,
Oh, I
maybe
mean,
that's
outside of
just that
murder.
I was already on a pretty good path. Like, I don't think 17-year-old me was,
Yeah, no, I agree. I
I
agree.
think that one could, like somebody could mess up
Uh-huh.
their life, but 17-year-old me was pretty chill. So
Yeah,
I don't think he would need to be worried about that. But
yeah.
yeah, I would tell him to give himself some grace, because I think I really hated myself then,
Mm-hmm.
and I would tell you, I hate myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I was pretty cool. I I had so much love for everyone else. I would
Yeah,
just
I
tell him,
mean,
like,
hey,
give
I
him
liked you.
some of that love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I would like to ask, if someone younger than you is considering taking a similar path as what the path that you've taken, would you recommend it? And do you have any advice to help them find success faster than you have? Give them the cheat codes. Like a true and honest, like, don't say it just to say it. Like, just to be honest, I would tell somebody a very measured, if you know it's your calling, yes. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
make damn sure, because it's not an easy path.
Mm. You mean professionally, right? Like career
Yeah,
path? Okay,
yeah,
okay. I was gonna
professionally.
say like life path. I pray no one aspires to do the path I did. Yeah, look, man, it's hard. It's really hard. I think that anyone could do it. I really do. I think that there's this sort of I had a very like mystery around like law school and like what it's like to be a lawyer and um I think if you're willing to work hard, anyone really can do it. I don't think that it's like a select group of people or anything like that. And especially the more I've been exposed to that world, I really do think that if you want it, you can get after it. But even if it is something that you really want and you would be naturally good at, or you're inherently maybe a little bit better at some of the skills that help you when you're a lawyer, like reading, analytics, that sort of stuff, like it's still hard work, So be prepared for that. Um, but the biggest piece of advice is, man, like it's gonna work out. I promise you, no matter like what stage of your career or school you are in, like the fact that you are there means that it will turn out okay. And that is something that I think I could have really, really used hearing before I knew what
Yeah.
I was going to do. I went through a lot of different changes and a lot of uncertainty about my path and my future and the people I care about and life in general. And honestly, I did way more worrying than I had to. And so, if I could distill it down to a single line that I try to live by, it's that if you worry about something in the future, then you are worrying twice. Because either it will happen and you will have to deal with it and worry about it then, or it will not happen and you worried for literally zero reason. So when you
Yeah.
worry about your future and you stress about it, when you know that you're already working hard, or at the very least you're working towards the goal, it will be okay. And that is the, I think, best tip I could distill what I've learned about down to.
Michael, thank you so much for your time, your generosity, and your perspective. I really appreciate you being on the show. You're a friend of mine, a friend of the show, and I hope to have you back on many times as a recurring guest. And it means so much to me to have you here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. And let me just say, I think it's sick that you're doing this. I think that it's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You are one of my very closest friends. And I think that if I, was able to find this when I was younger, it would have done me some good. And so, yeah, just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Then I'll do some sort of outro. It's good.
Okay, cool.
Do you hear that? It's the call of the tavern. If you enjoy this show and want to join a community that supports one another, you should click the link in the description to join the GG Tavern Discord. We're going to be hosting game nights, networking events, and community discussion boards there. It's also the best place to stay up to date with everything going on with GGUP. There's currently a special promotion going on called the Founders Event. The first 100 people who get 5 of their friends to subscribe to the podcast and DM me proof will gain lifetime access to a special role in the Discord server where you can enjoy some of the special perks that will otherwise only be for paid supporters of the channel. Also, the first 500 people to join the server can claim the OG title for eternal bragging rights that you were an early adopter of the show. Come on into the tavern and connect with the community today.